The universe screamed. Space itself twisted as the Kearney Fuchida drive engaged, tearing a hole in the fabric of reality. The CWS Dire Wolf, an Essex-class warship of Clan Wolf, materialized at its designated jump point, or should have. Instead, alarms shrieked across every station on the bridge as reality snapped back wrong. Status. Con Natasha Kerensky barked from her command station, her scarred face illuminated by the red emergency lighting. At 53, she was old for a clan warrior, a living legend who'd fought alongside the great Kerensky himself. The jump. It was not clean. "My con," reported the senior tech, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. "KF drive suffered catastrophic harmonic failure during transit. We have emerged." But he stopped, staring at his instruments. "The stars are wrong." Natasha stood, moving to the sensor station with the fluid grace of a lifetime warrior. The holographic display showed star patterns that matched nothing in clan databases. No recognizable navigation beacons. No known jump ships. Just empty space and unfamiliar constellations. "Comstar HPG network?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "Negative contact. No hyperpulse generators detected within range. We are alone, my con." Natasha studied the display, her tactical mind processing the implications. The Dire Wolf carried a full Cluster 90 Omni-Mechs, 200 elemental infantry, support vehicles, and enough supplies for 6 months. A formidable force, but stranded in unknown space with a crippled jump drive. "Galaxy commanders to the bridge," she ordered. "And get our scientists analyzing this. I want to know where we are and how we get home." Within the hour, the truth became clear. They weren't just lost. They were somewhere else entirely. A different universe with different physics. Subspace instead of hyperspace. The KF drive had torn through dimensions in its death throes, depositing them in a cosmos that operated on fundamentally different principles. "Can we return?" Natasha asked the chief scientist, a Clan Wolf genetic researcher named Malcolm. "Neg, my con. The drive is destroyed. We would need a functional jump ship to create another dimensional breach, and even then..." Malcolm gestured helplessly at the star charts. "We do not know the route home. We may never find it." Natasha absorbed this without visible reaction. Clan warriors were bred for adversity. "Then we survive here. What resources are available?" "Long-range sensors detect multiple inhabited systems within 2 light-years, Malcolm reported. "Population centers numbering in the billions. Advanced technology fusion signatures, antimatter reactions, sophisticated energy generation. But..." He paused. "No military infrastructure visible. No defense satellites. No warship patrols. No fortifications. Free-birth civilians." Star Colonel Marcos rumbled from his position at tactical. "Ripe for the taking," Natasha considered. The clan way was conquest, but intelligent conquest. Rush in blind and they might be destroyed. We reconnoiter first. Deploy a star to the nearest inhabited world. Scientific mission: gather intelligence. Assess threat level. Secure supplies if needed. Rules of engagement: defensive only unless I order otherwise. "Af, my con," Marcos said, disappointment evident in his voice. "And Marcos, take your best. We are alone in an unknown galaxy. Pride gets warriors killed." The battle mechs deployed from dropship Bloodfang descended through Panthera 4th's atmosphere like falling gods. 5 Omni-Mechs in their star formation. A Timberwolf Prime, piloted by Star Colonel Marcos himself, flanked by a Mad Cat, a Dire Wolf, a Kit Fox, and a Stormcrow. 75 tons to 100 tons of fusion-powered death machines bristling with weapons. The colonists of Panthera 4th's primary settlement looked up in terror as the mechs descended on plumes of superheated air. They'd seen shuttles, cargo haulers, even the occasional Starfleet vessel. But nothing like this. Walking war machines, 12 meters tall, covered in angular armor and weapons arrays. The mechs landed in the settlement square with earth-shaking impacts. Fusion reactors hummed to full power. Weapon systems went live, PPCs crackling with contained lightning. lasers cycling to firing temperature, autocannons loaded and tracking. Star Colonel Marcos opened the external speakers. Attention, Freebirth civilians. I am Star Colonel Marcos of Clan Wolf. By right of conquest and trial of possession, I claim this world for the clans. You will submit to Hegira immediate surrender and evacuation of all military personnel and strategic resources. Resist, and you will be destroyed. You have 3 minutes to respond. The colonists panicked. Some ran. Others tried to contact Starfleet. A few brave souls grabbed whatever weapons they could find. Old phaser pistols, industrial tools, anything. Contact. The Kit Fox pilot reported, detecting energy signatures consistent with fusion power, multiple sources, analyzing. A pause. My Star Colonel, recommend defensive posture. These readings are unlike anything in our databases. Elaborate, Marcos demanded, his Timberwolf's torso rotating to scan the horizon. Unknown vessel, entering atmosphere. Mass approximately 5 million kilograms. Energy output, impossible. They are generating enough power to run a small city. Weapons signatures detected, type unknown. The USS Yorktown, Excelsior-class heavy cruiser, dropped out of warp at the edge of Panthara IV system. Captain Hiro Nakamura stood on the bridge, reading the emergency transmission from the colony with growing alarm. Giant walking machines, he said, turning to his science officer. Commander Sorrel, analysis? The Vulcan science officer studied his sensors with characteristic calm. Confirmed, Captain. 5 mobile units, humanoid configuration, averaging 12 meters in height. Composition, fusion reactor cores, myomer-based musculature analogs, armor plating of unknown alloy, weapon systems, active particle projection cannons, directed energy weapons, and what appear to be chemical propellant projectile launchers. Projectile weapons? Nakamura said. In this century? Indeed. Most irregular. The technology base appears to be a hybrid of advanced fusion engineering and relatively primitive kinetic weaponry. Fascinating. Tactical. Lieutenant Commander Chen checked his boards. Shields up. Weapons ready. Sir, those machines are targeting civilian structures. Recommend we attempt communication first, but be prepared for hostile action. Nakamura nodded. Open hailing frequencies. All languages. The transmission reached the Blood Fang, which relayed it to the star on the ground. Marcos listened to the stilted, formal greeting in a dozen languages, all variations of the same theme. Peaceful contact, request for dialogue, Federation law, please respond. Freebirth weakness, he muttered. They hail instead of fight. They request instead of demand. He opened his own channel. Unknown vessel. I am Star Colonel Marcos of Clan Wolf. This world is claimed by trial of possession. Withdraw or face destruction in combat. There is no negotiation. There is only victory or defeat. On the Yorktown, the bridge crew exchanged glances. Captain, they're threatening us, Chen said unnecessarily. I gathered that. Opinions? They appear to value martial honor, Sorrel observed. The terminology, trial of possession, combat, suggests a warrior culture with formalized rules of engagement. Then let's try formal rules. Helm, take us to standard orbit. Tactical, shields to maximum. Prepare a warning shot photon torpedo, 50 meters above the largest machine. Maybe we can convince them we're serious without killing anyone. The Yorktown descended through atmosphere, her shields leaving a glowing trail. To the clan warriors on the ground, she looked like a massive flying arrowhead, sleek and deadly, crackling with barely contained energy. Energy shields detected, the Mad Cat pilot reported. Analyzing frequency and modulation. No match to any known technology. Star Colonel, these Freebirths have defensive capabilities far beyond projected levels. Marcos watched the starship take position overhead. We are Clan Wolf. We do not yield to Freebirths. Prepare to fire. Target the vessel's engines. We will ground it and take it as Izorla. Aft, the Timberwolf's right arm came up, the extended range PPC charging with a rising whine. Particle projection cannons were the pride of clan technology, artificial lightning that could slag armor and fry electronics at 500 meters. Fire. Blue-white lightning lanced upward, striking the Yorktown's shields at full power. The ship shuddered, shield energy bleeding off in cascades of disrupted photons. Alarm klaxons wailed on the bridge. "Shields at 87%, Chen reported. That was some kind of particle weapon. Penetration characteristics similar to a Klingon disruptor, but with different energy signatures. "They shot first," Nakamura said grimly. "Return fire. Phasers, target the weapons on that lead machine. Disable, don't destroy." The Yorktown's phaser arrays came to life, orange beams stabbing downward with surgical precision. They struck the Timberwolf's right arm, the limb that had just fired. The armor glowed cherry red, then white-hot but held. Clan Omnimechs were built from ferrofibrous armor, an advanced composite that could withstand tremendous punishment. "Negligible damage," Marcos reported, checking his damage display. "Armor at 93%. Star, return fire, all weapons." 5 battle mechs opened fire simultaneously. PPCs, extended range, large lasers, autocannons, short-range missiles, everything they had. The Yorktown was bracketed by a maelstrom of energy and metal. Shields flared, overloaded, regenerated, flared again. "Shields at 40% and dropping," Chen shouted. "Captain, these weapons are incredibly powerful. If they maintain this rate of fire, photon torpedoes full spread. Target the ground around them, not direct hits. Show them what we can do." 6 photon torpedoes streaked downward, impacting in a perfect hexagon around the clan star. The antimatter explosions were devastating, 50 meters of crater depth. Thermal blooms visible from orbit. Shockwaves that knocked the mechs backward. The Mad Cat's pilot struggled with his controls, as his 75-ton machine staggered. "Damage to left leg actuator. That was... What kind of weapon was that?" "Antimatter warheads," Marcos said, his respect for these freebirths rising slightly. "They have power to match their bravado." Star, defensive formation. Kit Fox, Stormcrow scan for their ground forces. "We take hostages." On the Yorktown, Nakamura made a decision. "Transporters, beam the machines into orbit." "Attempting now, sir." The transporter chief's fingers flew across his console. "Sir, I'm getting massive interference. Those fusion reactors are putting out incredible amounts of radiation, and whatever that artificial muscle material is, it's scattering the confinement beam. I can't get a clean lock." "Then beam down a security team. Maybe we can negotiate face-to-face." 20 Starfleet security personnel materialized in the settlement square, phaser rifles at the ready. They wore standard duty uniforms, no armor, no heavy weapons, just hand phasers and training. The Elementals saw them first. Clan Elemental battle armor was a marvel of engineering, 2.5 meters of augmented power armor, housing a genetically enhanced warrior. They moved like panthers despite massing half a ton each. 20 Elementals had deployed with the Star, and they now emerged from concealment around the settlement. "Freebirth infantry," the Elemental Point Commander said over his squad channel. "Armed with energy weapons. Engage and capture for interrogation." The Elementals opened fire with their small lasers and machine guns. The Starfleet security team's shields absorbed the first hit's personal shield technology borrowed from the Borg encounters. But sustained fire from half-ton armored infantry was too much. Shields collapsed, officers fell. Lieutenant Reyes, the security chief, fired back. His phaser rifle was set to maximum stun enough to drop a charging Klingon. The beam hit an elemental square in the chest. The armor absorbed it without effect, not through shielding, but through rapid thermal dispersion. The ferrofibrous composite's molecular lattice redistributed the phaser's energy across the entire surface area faster than the beam could maintain coherence, like trying to cut water with a knife. "It's dispersing the beam," Reyes shouted into his comm. "The armor's not blocking it. It's spreading the heat too fast for penetration." "Switch to kill setting," Reyes shouted, his training overriding his horror. Maximum power. Phasers on kill setting were designed to vaporize humanoid targets. Against elemental armor, they scorched paint. The ceramics and ablatives that protected clan infantry were designed to resist laser fire, and phasers, for all their sophistication, were just another type of directed energy weapon. The battle became a slaughter. Clan elementals were bred for war, trained from childhood, equipped with weapons designed to kill battle mechs. Against unarmored Starfleet personnel, they were unstoppable. But they took prisoners. Clan honor demanded it. 12 Starfleet officers were captured alive, restrained, and beamed up to the Bloodfang for interrogation. On the Yorktown, Nakamura watched 8 of his crew die and 12 more vanish from sensors. His hands clenched the armrests of his command chair. "Captain," Chen said quietly, "we can level that settlement from orbit. Photon torpedoes, full spread. Wipe them out." "And kill how many colonists?" Nakamura asked. "No. We withdraw. We report to Starfleet, and we come back with a fleet. Helm, take us to orbit. Best speed." "Cowards," Marcos spat, watching the starship retreat. But privately, he was relieved. His mechs were overheating from sustained fire. Ammunition was down to 60%, and one of his pilots had taken damage. "Star, secure the prisoners and the settlement. We hold this position until the Khan orders otherwise." He opened a channel to the dire wolf. "Star Colonel Marcos reporting. Contact with local forces. They possess advanced energy weapons, antimatter explosives, and some form of matter teleportation. Recommend full strategic analysis before further engagement." Natasha Kerensky listened to the report, watched the combat footage, and began planning. These freebirths had technology the clans had never imagined, but they lacked warrior spirit, lacked the will to do what was necessary. That would be their downfall. The prisoners were brought before Khan Natasha in what had once been the dire wolf's briefing room. 12 Starfleet officers, still in uniform, their hands bound with myomor restraints. They stood with varying degrees of defiance and fear. Natasha studied them with a warrior's eye. Most were human, but she recognized several other species from the database her scientists were compiling. One was that pointed-eared species Vulcan, the translator said. Another had blue skin and antennae. "I am Khan Natasha Kerensky of Clan Wolf," she said, her voice carrying absolute authority. "You have been taken as Izorla, honorable salvage of battle. You will answer questions. Refuse, and you will be executed as Desgra without honor. First question. What is your nation called?" Lieutenant Reyes, the senior surviving officer, straightened despite his bound hands. "We are citizens of the United Federation of Planets. We don't recognize your authority to—" "Silence." Natasha's voice cracked like a whip. "You lost in battle. You have no authority here. Second question. How many worlds does this Federation control?" "I won't." Natasha nodded to an elemental guard, who struck Reyes across the face with enough force to break his nose. The lieutenant went down, blood streaming. "I will ask once more. How many worlds?" Another officer, a young ensign, broke. "Over 150 member worlds, thousands of colonies. Please, we're not warriors. We're explorers, scientists." "Explorers?" Natasha's scarred face showed contempt. "You send your scientists to fight your battles? What manner of Desgra society is this?" "We don't have a warrior caste," the Vulcan officer said calmly, apparently unfazed by the violence. "The Federation is an alliance of equals. All citizens serve as needed. Your concept of a dedicated warrior class is inefficient." Natasha actually laughed. "Inefficient? You send untrained freebirths against clan elementals and call us inefficient? Your people died like cattle." "They died with honor," the Vulcan replied. "They protected civilians at cost of their own lives. By any moral framework, that is the highest form of efficiency, maximum benefit from maximum sacrifice." Natasha studied the Vulcan with new interest. "You have courage, free birth, and perhaps wisdom. Tell me of this Federation, your weapons, your ships, your resources." Over the next 3 hours, Natasha extracted a comprehensive intelligence picture. The Federation was vast, 150 member worlds, billions of citizens, hundreds of starships. Their technology was impressive. Faster than light travel without jump points, matter-energy conversion devices, weapons that could crack planets. But they were soft, peaceful. They preferred negotiation to conquest. "Desgra," she muttered. "An entire civilization of Desgra. They have the power of gods and the spirit of merchants." "My Khan," Star Colonel Marcos ventured. We could conquer much before they organize resistance. Strike now, claim what we can, then call for reinforcements from the clans. Neg, Natasha said. We are one warship and one cluster. They number hundreds of ships. We would be destroyed. She paused, tactical mind working. But if we move carefully, prove ourselves in combat, demonstrate our superiority, we could claim a foothold, then summon the clans to take the rest. She turned back to the prisoners. You will be returned to your people with a message. Tell them, Clan Wolf offers a trial of possession. You field your best warriors. We field ours. Single combat decides this sector. Honor demands it. Refuse and we will take what we wish by force. You have 3 days to respond. The prisoners were returned via dropship to the nearest Federation outpost, along with a detailed transmission outlining clan challenge protocols. Natasha watched them go, then summoned her galaxy commanders. We are alone in an unknown galaxy, she told them. The KF drive is destroyed. We may never see home again, but we are Clan Wolf. We are the legacy of Kerensky. We will survive, we will conquer, and we will show this Federation what true warriors can achieve. Selah, the officers responded in unison. Now, we prepare for war. At Starfleet Command on Earth, Admiral Hayes reviewed the data from the Yorktown with growing alarm. The combat footage showed weapons that shouldn't exist, walking tanks with firepower equivalent to starship weapons, armored infantry that could shrug off phaser fire, projectile weapons that somehow worked as well as directed energy. Assessment, he asked his staff. Unknown threat, Admiral, the tactical chief responded, but clearly hostile. They attacked without provocation, took prisoners, and are now demanding some kind of ritualized combat. Recommendation: mobilize a task force, retake Penthera IV, neutralize the threat. Agreed. Who's available? The Enterprise E just returned from the neutral zone. Captain Picard has experience with first contact situations. Picard it is, and send him support 3 more ships minimum. I want overwhelming force. These clans need to understand that the Federation doesn't bow to threats. Hayes paused, looking at the image of a timber wolf frozen on the screen, 12 meters of angular depth, weapons arrays glowing, the Clan Wolf insignia stark on its shoulder. And someone get me every military historian we have. I want to know how to fight these things, because something tells me this isn't the last time we'll see them. On the Enterprise E, Captain Jean-Luc Picard received the orders with mixed feelings. First contact with a hostile force, prisoners taken, demands for combat, not his preferred method of diplomacy. Number 1, he said to Commander Riker, what do we know about these clans? Riker consulted his PADD. Not much, sir. They appear to be a warrior society with advanced technology, fusion-powered combat vehicles, sophisticated armor, energy and projectile weapons. They operate under some kind of honor code that involves ritualized combat. Like the Klingons? Similar but different. The Klingons value personal honor and glory. These clans seem to value efficiency in combat. The prisoners described a caste system: warriors, scientists, laborers, very rigid. Picard frowned. A caste system. Charming. Mr. Data, analysis of their combat capabilities? The android looked up from his console. Formidable, Captain. Their battle mechs, as they call them, combine firepower, armor, and mobility in ways our ground forces cannot match. A single assault-class mech has weapons output equivalent to a runabout's armament, armor that can withstand multiple photon torpedo hits, and enough ammunition for sustained combat. They are, essentially, walking starships. Weaknesses: several. They generate substantial heat when firing, which creates exploitable thermal signatures. Their targeting systems appear optimized for slower ground targets, not fast-moving aerial units. And they require ammunition unlike our energy weapons. Theirs have finite shots. Extended combat will deplete their resources. Good. Prepare a tactical brief for the senior staff. And Mr. Worf, Picard turned to his security chief. I want you to review the footage of their infantry. Those elementals defeated our security team easily. I need countermeasures. Worf's expression was grim. Aye, Captain. I will find a way to defeat them. See that you do, because I have a feeling we're going to need it. The Enterprise E arrived at Penthura IV 3 days later, accompanied by the USS Defiant, on loan from Deep Space Nine, the USS Voyager, fresh from the Delta Quadrant, and the USS Budapest, Miranda class. 4 starships representing the best of Starfleet. The clan response was immediate. Star Colonel Marcos transmitted from the surface. We accept your challenge. Choose your warriors. We will meet you in honorable combat. Single mech versus single ship. Winner claims this world. Picard stood on his bridge, listening to the transmission, and shook his head. No, we will not participate in ritualized combat. We are here to negotiate your peaceful departure from Federation space. We have no desire for war, but we will defend our citizens. A long pause. Then a different voice. Female, older, carrying unmistakable authority. I am Khan Natasha Kerensky of Clan Wolf. You refuse the trial? Then you are Desgra without honor. Very well, Freebirth. We will take what we wish, and you will not stop us. This galaxy belongs to the clans now. We have claimed it by right of conquest. You have conquered nothing, Picard said firmly. You hold one colony against the might of the Federation. Withdraw now, and we will consider this a misunderstanding. Refuse, and we will remove you by force. Natasha's laugh was cold. You think you can remove Clan Wolf? You think your soft Freebirth warriors can stand against the legacy of Kerensky? Very well. Let us see. All units, attack condition. Prepare for war. The channel went dead. Red alert, Picard said quietly. All hands to battle stations. Shields up, weapons ready. We tried diplomacy. Now we do what we must. The war between the clans and the Federation had begun. The dropship Bloodfang descended through Rigel VII's thin atmosphere, trailing fire, accompanied by 11 sister ships carrying the full might of Clan Wolf's Alpha Galaxy. Inside, Star Colonel Marcos stood in the command pulpit, watching the mining colony grow larger on his displays. 90 Omnimex, 200 elementals, against a civilian mining operation. This is slaughter, not conquest, muttered Star Captain Evantha from her Warhawk's cockpit, her voice carrying over the command channel. This is necessity, Marcos corrected. The Freebirths hold orbit with their ships. We must secure ground positions they cannot bombard without killing their own civilians. Standard clan doctrine, adapted for new enemies. The dropships touched down in a coordinated pattern across Rigel VII's main settlement, a sprawling complex of mining facilities, refineries, and habitation domes housing 70,000 colonists. Rear ramps dropped with hydraulic hisses. Battle mechs stomped down loading ramps, assault mechs leading, mediums and lights spreading to flanking positions. Marcos's Timber Wolf Prime was first out, its 75 tons shaking the ground with each step. The PPC arrays on both arms crackled with ready energy. Behind him came the Heavies and Atlas, 2 Dire Wolves, 3 Warhawks, then the mediums, Mad Cats, Stormcrows, Kit Foxes fanning out to secure the perimeter. All units, secure the mining facilities, Marcos ordered. Civilians are to be gathered in central locations. Resistance is to be crushed immediately. We hold this ground until the Khan commands otherwise. The colonists didn't resist, they ran. 70,000 people flooding toward the spaceport, toward shelters, toward anything that might protect them from walking tanks that shouldn't exist. Security forces with phaser pistols took one look at 90 battle mechs and made the intelligent decision to evacuate civilians instead of fighting. But Starfleet had been monitoring Rigel VII. 3 ships were already en route. The USS Thunderchild, an Akira-class heavy cruiser, dropped out of warp first. Captain Rachel Garrett stood on her bridge, taking in the tactical situation with practiced efficiency. 12 clan dropships on the surface, 90-plus battle mechs spreading across the colony, and in high orbit, a monster. The CWS Dire Wolf hung against Rigel VII's rings like a prehistoric predator, an Essex-class warship, 750 meters of angular armor and naval-grade weapons. Where Starfleet ships curved and flowed, the warship was all hard edges and brutal functionality. Naval autocannons studded its hull. Capital-grade PPCs charged in massive turret mounts. and the armor sensor readings showed plating thick enough to shrug off weapons that would gut a Galaxy-class starship. "That's not a ship," Thunderchild's tactical officer breathed. "That's a flying fortress." "It's both," Garrett said grimly. "And we have to get past it to support the colony." "Status on the Fearless and Sutherland?" 2 minutes out, Captain. Both Excelsior class." "Good. When they arrive, we go in together. Coordinated attack focus fire on that warship's weapon systems. We don't need to destroy it, just cripple it enough to support ground operations." On the Dire Wolf's bridge, Con Natasha Kerensky watched the Starfleet vessels approach with cold calculation. She'd lost her original warship at Panthara 4th. This was the CWS Grey Death, renamed Dire Wolf to replace it. An Essex class pulled from reserve and crewed with her best officers. 3 vessels, her sensor operator reported. 1 Akira class, 2 Excelsior variants. Combined tonnage, approximately 3 million kilograms. Shields detecting at full power. Weapons status, all naval autocannons loaded and tracking. Capital PPCs at 90% charge. "Prepared to engage on your command, my con." Natasha studied the approaching ships. Fast, maneuverable, protected by those impossible regenerating shields. But she'd learned from Panthera IV. Sustained fire could overwhelm even Federation shields. And the Dire Wolf was built to deliver sustained fire. "Target the lead vessel," she ordered. "All forward batteries. Fire when in range." The USS Fearless and Sutherland dropped out of warp in perfect formation with Thunderchild. 3 starships against 1 warship seemed like good odds until the Dire Wolf opened fire. Naval autocannons were designed for ship-to-ship combat in Battletech's universe. Massive turrets firing streams of depleted uranium slugs at velocities that made them devastating even against warship armor. Against shields designed for energy weapons, they were nightmares. The Thunderchild shuddered as hundreds of kinetic rounds slammed into her forward shields at relativistic velocities. Each impact bled off shield energy. The shields were designed to regenerate, to adapt, to protect against sustained energy weapons fire. But kinetic impacts were different. Each one transferred momentum, creating cumulative stress on the shield generators. "Shields at 72%, Tactical reported. "Captain, those projectile weapons are incredibly effective against our shields. They're not giving the generators time to fully regenerate between impacts." "All ships, return fire," Garrett ordered. "Quantum torpedoes, full spread. Target that warship's weapon systems." 18 quantum torpedoes, 6 from each ship, streaked across the void. The Dire Wolf's point defense lasers engaged, destroying 5. The remaining 13 impacted against the warship's armor with devastating force. Quantum torpedoes were more powerful than standard photon torpedoes, packing enough punch to crack planetary crusts. Against the Dire Wolf's armor, they cratered the surface, vaporized exterior plating, destroyed 2 autocannon turrets, and damaged a PPC mount. Significant damage, but not critical. The warship had redundant systems, backup weapons, and armor measured in meters of advanced composites. "Damage to sections 7 through 12, the Dire Wolf's damage control officer reported. "Lost 2 NAC 25 seconds and 1 capital PPC. Armor breached on decks 9 and 10, pressure doors holding. Recommend we withdraw that flank from the engagement." "Neg," Natasha said coldly. "All weapons continue firing. Rotate to present fresh armor. Target the damaged vessel, finish it." The Dire Wolf turned ponderously, presenting an undamaged flank while all weapons focused on the Thunderchild. Naval autocannons, capital-grade PPCs, and heavy lasers all converged on the Akira-class cruiser. The shields held for 43 seconds. Then they collapsed. Autocannon rounds tore through the Thunderchild's hull. A PPC beam vaporized her port nacelle. Secondary explosions rippled through her engineering section. The warp core automatically ejected standard Starfleet safety protocol, but the damage was catastrophic. "All hands, abandon ship," Captain Garrett ordered, her voice calm despite the chaos. "This is not a drill. Abandon ship immediately." Escape pods burst from the dying cruiser like seeds from a shattered fruit. The Fearless and Sutherland moved to cover the evacuation, their own weapons hammering the Dire Wolf with everything they had. More quantum torpedoes, phaser arrays set to maximum power, even photon torpedoes in desperation. The concentrated fire was telling. The dire wolf lost another weapons turret, suffered armor breaches on 3 more decks, had her sensors partially blinded. But she gave as good as she got. The Sutherland took a PPC hit that disabled her shields completely. The Fearless lost her impulse engines to a barrage of autocannon fire. "My Khan," the tactical officer said urgently, "we have inflicted critical damage on all 3 vessels, but we have sustained significant damage ourselves. Armor integrity at 67%. Weapons capacity reduced by 30%. Recommend we withdraw to repair range." Natasha made the calculation coldly. 3 Federation ships damaged or destroyed. Her warship damaged but operational. A tactical victory, but a costly one. And the ground battle hadn't even begun yet. "Withdraw to high orbit," she ordered. "Maintain bombardment capability on the surface but avoid direct engagement unless they press the attack. We've proven our point." The dire wolf pulled back, and the 2 surviving Starfleet vessels limped to rescue Thunderchild's crew. In the space between, wreckage tumbled debris from both sides, testament to the brutal clash of different warfare doctrines. On Rigel 7's surface, Star Colonel Marcos watched his sensors and allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The Freebirths had courage, he respected that. But they didn't understand ground warfare. They thought orbital superiority meant victory. They would learn otherwise. All units, prepare for ground assault. The Freebirths will send their infantry now. They always do. And we will show them why the clans are the ultimate ground force. The Federation response came via transporter. 2,000 Starfleet Marines materialized across Rigel VII in defensive positions, behind cover with heavy weapons. They'd learned from Penthara IV. Hand phasers were useless against elementals or battle mechs, but the TR-116 projectile rifle, originally designed for combat in transporter-disrupted environments, could penetrate armor if used correctly. And Starfleet had replicated 10,000 of them. Sergeant Marcus Chen led 3rd Platoon, 40 Marines armed with TR-116 seconds and portable shield generators. They'd materialized 200 meters from a clan position, 3 medium mechs, and a point of elementals securing a mining facility. "Spread out," Chen ordered. "Fire teams, establish crossfire positions, heavy weapons, target those mechs' joints and heat sinks." The TR-116 rifles opened fire, their chemical propellants sounding like ancient warfare reborn. Against the elementals, they were effective. The projectiles could penetrate the armor if they hit weak points. Against the battle mechs, they were annoying but not dangerous. Until the heavy weapons teams deployed. Starfleet had adapted quickly. Portable plasma cannons, normally used for demolition, were reconfigured as anti-mech weapons. They fired superheated plasma in concentrated bursts, not as powerful as a PPC, but enough to damage heat sinks and sensor arrays if targeted precisely. A Stormcrow took plasma fire to its torso-mounted heat sinks. The mech's internal temperature spiked immediately. The pilot, Star Captain Jerome, felt his cockpit temperature rise from 20 degrees to 45 in seconds. "Heat spike," he reported. "They're targeting cooling systems. Weapons offline until I can vent heat." The Stormcrow had to pause, had to open vents, had to become a sitting target while its fusion reactor cooled. In those precious seconds, more plasma fire hit, damaging myomer bundles, destroying a laser mount, crippling the mech's left leg actuator. "This is Stormcrow 7, Jerome transmitted through gritted teeth. "I am mission killed, leg actuator destroyed, weapons offline, requesting support." But support was busy. Across the colony, 90 battle mechs were discovering that Starfleet ground forces weren't the easy prey they'd expected. The Marines used terrain, used mobility, used their superior numbers. They couldn't destroy mechs, not easily, but they could harass them, slow them, force them to waste ammunition on infantry targets. The elementals were another story. Point Commander Joanna led her 5 elementals against a Federation position, a fortified mining complex held by 200 Marines. The elementals jumped with their integral jump jets, covering 100 meters in a single bound, landing among the defenders like armored furies. Each elemental massed half a ton in full armor. Each carried weapons designed to damage battle mechs, small lasers, machine guns, short-range missiles. Against unarmored infantry, even with portable shields, they were devastating. But Starfleet had adapted here, too. TR-116 rifles fired armor-piercing rounds at point-blank range, targeting joints and environmental seals. When an elemental's armor was breached, the Starfleet Marines used grenades, photon charges that couldn't penetrate the armor, but could damage the suit's systems through concussive force. Joanna killed 18 Marines in 3 minutes. Her point killed 63 more, but they lost 1 elemental to concentrated fire, and 2 more were damaged badly enough to require field repairs. The exchange ratio was 20-1 in the clan's favor, but Starfleet had numbers the clans couldn't match. All units, status report, Marcos demanded from his Timberwolf's cockpit. The reports came in mixed. The battle mechs controlled most of the colony, but the Federation forces were making them pay for every meter. Ammunition expenditure was at 40%. 3 mechs were mission killed, not destroyed, but 2 damaged to continue fighting. Elemental casualties were at 8% higher than acceptable for clan standards. And then the orbital bombardment began. The Fearless and Sutherland, their hulls scarred but their torpedo tubes functional, fired from high orbit. Not at the mechs that would kill civilians, but at the dropships, at the supply depots. At anything that looked like clan infrastructure. Photon torpedoes rained down from the sky, their antimatter warheads vaporizing dropship landing gear, destroying ammunition stockpiles, cratering landing zones. The Direwolf tried to intercept with point defense, but she was too damaged, too slow, too far from optimal firing position. "My Khan," the communications officer shouted. "The Freebirths are destroying our supply lines. They're targeting everything that can't move." Natasha watched 4 dropships, billions of C-bills worth of equipment, irreplaceable in this unknown galaxy, vaporize under photon torpedo strikes. Her jaw clenched. "This is the weakness of ground superiority," she said to herself. "We can hold the surface, but they control the orbitals. We can kill their infantry, but they can kill our logistics." She opened the fleet channel. "Star Colonel Marcos, this is the Khan. You will hold your current positions but advance no further. We cannot sustain this without more warships. I am calling for reinforcements." "Af, my Khan," Marcos replied, frustration evident even through the formal clan speech. "We hold, but this is not victory. This is stalemate. Stalemate with honor is better than defeat with glory," Natasha said. "We learn, we adapt, and we do not waste warriors on battles we cannot win decisively." At Starfleet Command, Admiral Hayes reviewed the battle reports with grim satisfaction. The Thunderchild was destroyed, her crew evacuated, but her loss a significant blow. The Fearless and Sutherland were damaged badly enough to require months of repair. 2,000 Marines had been beamed down to Rigel VII. 437 were dead, 800 wounded, but the clans had been stopped. They held the surface, yes, but they couldn't advance. And Starfleet controlled orbit, which meant they controlled logistics, reinforcement, and strategic initiative. "Strategic analysis?" Hayes asked his staff. Commander Shelby, his tactical advisor, pulled up holographic displays. "Sir, we've identified clear patterns in clan warfare. First, their ground forces are superior to ours in direct combat. A single battle mech can fight off a company of Marines if positioned correctly. Second, their warships are tougher than our cruisers in slugfests, but less maneuverable and slower. Third, they have heat management issues. Sustained fire causes their mechs to overheat, creating tactical vulnerabilities." "Exploitable vulnerabilities?" "Yes, sir. If we can force extended engagements, target their heat sinks, and use hit-and-run tactics, we can degrade their combat effectiveness without risking direct confrontation." "What about their armor?" Hayes asked. "Our phasers were largely ineffective. Different tech base, sir. Their armor is designed to resist energy weapons from their own universe lasers, PPCs, similar to our weapons but with different properties. Our phasers partially penetrate, but not efficiently. However, Shelby highlighted sections of damaged mechs. Quantum torpedoes work very well. The antimatter warheads deliver enough raw destructive force to overwhelm their armor. So we need to get close enough for torpedo strikes," Hayes mused. which means running through their weapons fire. Casualties will be high. Yes, sir, but we have another advantage: numbers. Intelligence suggests the clans have maybe a dozen warships total, a few thousand mechs. We have hundreds of ships, tens of thousands of marines. We can afford a war of attrition. They can't. Hayes nodded slowly. Implement the new tactics and begin production of TR-116 rifles at every starbase. If we're fighting a ground war, our people need weapons that actually work against clan armor. There's one more thing, sir, Shelby said hesitantly. The clans operate under a strict honor code. They challenged us to single combat, and we refused. From their perspective, we're dishonorable, cowards. They don't respect us. I don't care about their respect, Hayes said flatly. I care about protecting Federation citizens. If they want honor, they can get it from the Klingons. From us, they get tactical efficiency and overwhelming force. Dismissed. The subspace transmission reached clan space 3 weeks later, traveling through the dimensional rift the dire wolf had created, following the same impossible route that had brought them to the Star Trek universe. The message was simple. New galaxy discovered, rich with resources and technology, minimal military resistance. Reinforcements requested. The response was enthusiastic. 3 more Clan Wolf warships jumped through the rift within a month, another Essex-class and 2 Lola 3-class destroyers. With them came 2 more clusters, 180 additional battle mechs and 400 more elementals. The Clan Wolf presence in Federation space tripled overnight. But Clan Wolf wasn't alone in receiving the news. The transmission had been broadcast on clan frequencies, and other clans intercepted it. Clan Jade Falcon, ancient rivals of Clan Wolf, saw an opportunity. If Wolf could claim a new galaxy, so could the Falcons, and the glory would be theirs. Khan Elias Critchell of Clan Jade Falcon assembled his own expeditionary force, 3 warships, 200 mechs, and a burning desire to prove Jade Falcon's superiority over Wolf. They jumped through the rift 2 weeks after the Wolf reinforcements. Now 7 clan warships prowled Federation space. 500 battle mechs occupied 3 Federation colonies, and the clans, scenting weakness, prepared to escalate the war. On the bridge of the newly arrived CWS Turkina's Pride, Khan Elias Critchell studied star charts of Federation space with predatory interest. The Federation controlled 150 worlds. The clans controlled 3. The mathematics were clear. We will take 50 worlds, Critchell declared to his officers. 50 worlds for Clan Jade Falcon alone. Let Clan Wolf have their scraps. We will prove our superiority by claiming the greater prize. The Federation's heart will be ours. Which target do you propose, my Khan? His Sakhan asked. Critchell's finger stabbed at a world on the star chart. Andoria, a major Federation world with shipyards and significant population. We take it, we prove we are the superior clan, and we force the Federation to recognize us as the true threat. The free births will resist. Let them, Critchell said coldly. We are Jade Falcon. We have never known defeat. These soft free births with their weak Desgra values will learn what happens when they face true warriors. Prepare the clusters. We strike in 1 week. At Starfleet Command, Admiral Hayes received the intelligence with mounting dread. 7 warships, 500 mechs, multiple clan factions that apparently hated each other almost as much as they hated the Federation. We're losing control of the situation, he said to his staff. When it was 1 warship, we could handle it. Now it's 7, and they're not even working together. This is going to get worse before it gets better. Recommendations, sir? Hayes looked at the star chart showing clan positions scattered, uncoordinated, competing for territory and glory. A thought occurred to him. They're rivals, he said slowly. These clans hate each other. What if we could exploit that? Turn them against each other instead of against us? Divide and conquer? Shelby asked. Sir, I'm not sure the clans are susceptible to that kind of manipulation. They seem rigid, honor-bound. Everyone's susceptible to the right approach, Hayes countered. Get me everything we know about clan politics. If they want to fight each other over who gets to conquer us, let's help them along. Meanwhile, mobilize the Second Fleet. If Andoria's their target, we need to be ready. The war was escalating, and neither side yet understood just how costly it would become. The great hall of the clans stood in the frozen wastes of Stranamekti, the clan homeworld deep in the periphery. It was a massive chamber carved from native stone, its walls adorned with the banners of all the clans: Wolf, Jade Falcon, Ghost Bear, Smoke Jaguar, Steel Viper, and a dozen others. Here, the Khans gathered to decide matters of war, honor, and the future of clan society. Today, they gathered to discuss a new galaxy. Khan Elias Krachel of Clan Jade Falcon stood at the central podium, his voice carrying across the assembled warriors. The reports from Khan Natasha are clear. A new galaxy exists beyond the rift, rich in resources, advanced in technology, but weak in warrior spirit. The so-called Federation controls 150 worlds, but cannot defend them. One warship and one cluster have claimed 3 worlds in weeks. Imagine what the full might of the clans could accomplish. The Federation is not weak, Khan Natasha Kerensky countered, her scarred face stern. She stood from her position among the assembled Khans, commanding attention through sheer presence. At 53, she was a living legend, daughter of the great Andrei Kerensky, warrior who'd fought in more battles than most Khans, twice her age. Her voice carried the weight of hard-won experience. They have hundreds of ships, advanced weapons, and tactics we have never encountered. They can transport troops instantly across vast distances, replicate supplies infinitely without factory worlds, and bombard from orbit with impunity. Their shields regenerate faster than our weapons can deplete them. They defeated my warship in direct combat through concentrated fire and superior numbers. I lost the Dire Wolf 750 meters of Essex-class superiority to 3 of their cruisers. They are a serious threat, and we underestimate them at our peril. She paused, letting her words sink in. I have interrogated their prisoners extensively. Their society is strange. No warrior caste, no breeding program, no genetic enhancement. They choose their professions freely, assign positions based on merit rather than bloodlines. Yet they produce scientists, engineers, and tacticians of remarkable capability. One of their androids, a constructed being of pure logic, defeated me in single combat through superior tactics alone. A threat? Khan Lincoln Osis of Smoke Jaguar laughed, his brutal features twisted in contempt. He was a large man even by clan standards, 2 meters tall and massing over 100 kilograms of muscle. Bred specifically for aggression and dominance, he represented everything the Smoke Jaguars valued: strength, ferocity, unwavering commitment to conquest. They are freebirths who refuse honorable combat. They hide behind their orbital superiority like cowards. They beam warriors into battle from orbit rather than face us directly in the field. They use technological tricks instead of warrior skill. A true warrior would welcome the challenge, not fear it. You grow soft, Natasha. Perhaps Wolf has lost its edge. Natasha's eyes narrowed dangerously. Careful, Lincoln. I have killed better warriors than you for less insult. I speak not from fear, but from wisdom. There is a difference between caution and cowardice, a distinction the Smoke Jaguars have never understood. Before Osis could respond, Khan Bjorn Jorgensen of Ghost Bear spoke, his voice measured and thoughtful. Unlike Osis, Bjorn was known throughout the clans for his strategic thinking, his ability to see beyond immediate glory to long-term consequences. At 48, he was young for a Khan, but had earned his position through careful planning and decisive victories. Khan, Natasha speaks wisdom that we ignore at our peril. This federation possesses technology that could revolutionize clan society in ways we have barely begun to comprehend. Their matter replicators alone could end resource scarcity. Imagine no more dependence on limited factory worlds, no more bidding wars over production facilities, no more conflicts over mining rights. Their medical technology could extend warrior lifespans, allow us to train and fight for decades longer than our current genetics permit. Their energy generation systems are orders of magnitude more efficient than our fusion plants, producing power we can barely measure with our instruments. He pulled up a holographic display showing Federation technology analysis. Their shields operate on principles our scientists do not fully understand, something they call subspace field manipulation. Their faster-than-light travel requires no jump points, No lithium fusion batteries. No cooldown periods. They can cross distances in hours that would take us weeks. Their sensors can detect our ships at ranges 10 times what our systems achieve. And their society, despite lacking a warrior caste, has survived for over 2 centuries without collapsing into chaos. Bjorn's expression grew serious. Perhaps instead of conquest, we should consider cooperation, a technology exchange. We offer them our battle mech designs, our weapons technology, our genetic knowledge. They offer us their replicators, their medical advances, their sensor capabilities. Both societies benefit. Both grow stronger. Is that not the ultimate goal, perfection through improvement? The hall erupted in angry shouts. Cooperation with freebirths? Unthinkable. Warriors pounded fists on tables, voices rising in a cacophony of outrage. Several Khans were on their feet, shouting denunciations. Cooperation is surrender. Khan Elias Krichel shouted over the din, his face red with fury. Ghost Bear grows soft. You would have us bow to freebirths, accept their Desgra ways, abandon everything that makes us clan. We are the children of Kerensky. We are the inheritors of the Star League. We do not negotiate with inferiors, we conquer them. I propose we take what is useful and discard the rest, Bjorn replied calmly, unfazed by the anger directed at him. His composure was legendary, nothing rattled the Khan of Ghost Bear. Their technology, yes. Their warrior weakness, no. We can learn from them without becoming them. The clans were founded on the principle of taking the best from all sources. Nicholas Kerensky himself adapted tactics from dozens of cultures when he created our way of life. Why should we be less flexible than our founder? There is nothing to learn from freebirths except how to die without honor. Osis snarled, his massive hands gripping the edge of the table before him hard enough to leave indentations in the metal. I vote for immediate full-scale invasion. 20 warships, 2,000 mechs, our entire available Tumen from all clans. We crush them before they can organize proper resistance, before they can adapt to our tactics, before they realize the true scope of our capabilities. We strike now, we strike hard. We show them that the clans are the ultimate evolution of warfare. Khan Vander von Chistu of Clan Steel Viper spoke up, his voice smooth and calculated. I agree with Khan Osis on the need for invasion, though perhaps not his enthusiasm. But I propose an addition. We should also consider the political implications. This new galaxy represents not just territory but legitimacy. The clan that conquers it, that brings these resources back to the homeworlds, could claim the position of Ilkhan permanently. That is worth considering in our voting. Several Khans exchanged glances at that. The position of Ilkhan, Supreme Commander of all clans, was the highest honor achievable. Currently it was held by Ulrich Kerensky of Smoke Jaguar, but that could change. Conquest of an entire galaxy would cement a clan's claim to leadership for generations. Natasha saw the political calculus shifting and knew she'd lost. Pride, ambition, and the promise of glory had overwhelmed caution. The clans would vote for war. All she could do now was try to ensure Wolf maintained some honor in the coming slaughter. Ilkhan Ulrich Kerensky of Smoke Jaguar raised his hand for silence. As Supreme Commander of all clan forces, his word carried absolute authority. He was an older warrior, 62 years old, ancient by clan standards, where most warriors died in their 40s or were assigned to Salama units. His face was a map of violence survived, scarred from dozens of battles, missing his left ear from a close-range laser hit that had nearly killed him. We will put it to a vote. All in favor of a war of absorption, full-scale invasion of the Federation with intent to conquer and occupy all territories, raise your hands. The vote was swift and brutal. 15 Khans raised their hands immediately. Jade Falcon, Smoke Jaguar, Steel Viper, Ice Hellion, Blood Spirit, Fire Mandrill, Cloud Cobra, Star Adder, Diamond Shark, Hell's Horses, Goliath, Scorpion, Snow Raven, Stone Lion, Coyote, and Nova Cat. Only Ghost Bear and Wolf abstained. Even clans that had no forces in the new galaxy voted for war. The promise of new territories, new technologies, new glory was too tempting to resist. The vote is decided, Showers declared, his voice echoing through the ancient hall like thunder. "We launch a war of absorption. 20 warships from our combined available fleets, Essex class, Lola 3 class, Sovietsky Soyuz class. Whatever each clan can contribute. 2,000 battle mechs from multiple clans assault, heavy, medium, light, whatever is needed for comprehensive ground superiority. Full logistical support, including jump ships and supply chains, scientist cast for technology analysis, merchant cast for resource management." He pulled up a holographic tactical display of Federation space based on Natasha's intelligence. "Our objective: conquer the Federation core worlds. Earth, their capital and symbolic heart, population 4 billion. Vulcan, their center of science and logic, population 6 billion. Andoria, their major shipyard facility and industrial center, population 3 billion. These 3 worlds represent the pillars of Federation power. Take them, and the rest will crumble." Timeline: 6 months from initial deployment to complete conquest. "We will show this galaxy what happens when they face the unified might of the clans." He looked directly at Natasha, his eyes cold and calculating, filled with the certainty of a warrior who'd never known true defeat. "Khan Kerensky, you have argued against this war with eloquence and passion. You have warned of Federation strength, spoken of their capabilities with what some might call respect. You have even suggested we could learn from them. But Clan Wolf will participate in this war of absorption or be declared Desgra without honor. Your entire clan will be marked as unworthy, your genetic legacies destroyed and removed from the gene pools, your warriors reduced to Salama status and given suicide missions until none remain. Your very existence as a clan will be erased from history. What say you?" The threat hung in the air like a blade. The assembled Khans waited in silence. To be declared Desgra was the ultimate shame, worse than death, worse than defeat. It meant everything a clan had built, every generation of breeding and training, every battle won and glory earned would be destroyed. It was cultural extinction. Natasha stood, her jaw tight with suppressed fury. She knew resistance was futile. The clans had decided, driven by pride and hunger for conquest and political ambition. But she also knew with terrible certainty what awaited them. A war against an enemy that fought with tactics they couldn't predict, weapons they couldn't fully counter, and a willingness to sacrifice that matched clan ferocity while being backed by industrial capacity the clans couldn't match. "Clan Wolf will fight," she said, each word carefully measured, spoken with the weight of absolute commitment. "But we do so with honor, following the traditions of Kerensky the Great and Nicholas Kerensky after him. We do not massacre civilians like animals to be slaughtered. We do not break our word once given in formal negotiation. We do not abandon wounded warriors to die alone. We do not disgrace ourselves with atrocities that shame all clans. And when the Federation proves stronger than you expect, when your precious invasion falters against their numbers and technology and will to survive, when you find yourselves bleeding from 1,000 cuts because you underestimated an enemy you didn't bother to understand, do not say I did not warn you. Do not come to Wolf expecting us to salvage your failures born of pride. Your concerns are noted and dismissed," Showers said coldly, waving one scarred hand in dismissal. "Caution is one thing, cowardice is another. I choose to believe you speak from the former rather than the latter. Now, let us plan the invasion properly. Khan Krikel," he turned to the Jade Falcon Khan, "you will coordinate the assault on Earth. Take your best galaxy, your elite blood-named warriors, your most experienced mech warriors. Earth is the symbolic heart. Its fall will break Federation morale." "Khan Bjorn," Showers turned to Ghost Bear, "despite your weakness in suggesting cooperation, you will take Vulcan. Perhaps their logic will appeal to your cautious nature. Use your analytical mind to crack their defenses. Show us that Ghost Bear can still achieve victory when properly motivated." Khan Osis, Smoke Jaguar's Khan, straightened at being addressed. "You will secure secondary targets and supply lines. Establish forward operating bases. Ensure our logistics remain intact. Your enthusiasm for warfare will serve well in rapid conquest operations." Khan Natasha, Showers finally addressed Wolf. Clan Wolf will serve as strategic reserve and rapid response force. When other clans encounter difficulties, you will deploy to assist. Your experience fighting these freebirths will prove valuable in advising others. Consider it an opportunity to prove Wolf's continued relevance. The insult was deliberate, reducing Wolf to a support role rather than spearheading the invasion. Natasha accepted it without expression. Better to be underestimated than overcommitted to a doomed strategy. The scientist cast will accompany us to analyze Federation technology, Showers continued. I want full technical documentation of everything we encounter. Their replicators, their transporters, their shields, their weapons, their computer systems, everything. If we cannot negotiate for their technology as Khan Bjorn suggests, we will simply take it by force and reverse engineer it ourselves. The merchant caste will establish supply networks between the homeworlds and the new galaxy. We will need constant reinforcement, replacement parts, ammunition, supplies. This will be a long campaign. Prepare accordingly. Showers looked around the assembled Khans, his scarred face set in determination. We depart in 1 month. Each clan will contribute according to their capabilities. This will be the greatest clan military operation since Nicholas Kerensky unified us. This will be the moment that proves the superiority of the clan way. This will be our finest hour. Selah, Selah, the Khans responded in unison, the ritual affirmation echoing through the great hall. The Khans dispersed to prepare their forces, but Natasha remained, staring at the massive star chart that dominated one wall of the great hall. So many worlds, so many people, and the clans were about to unleash total war on a civilization that had never faced anything like them. They will surprise you, she said quietly to herself, her voice barely audible in the emptying hall. Just as they surprised me. And by the time you realize your mistake, it will be too late to change course. Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Even the clans are not immune to that ancient wisdom. She turned and walked out, already composing the orders she would send to her galaxy commanders. Clan Wolf would fight, yes, but they would fight smart, fight with honor, and be ready to adapt when the inevitable disasters began. Because disasters were coming. She was certain of that. At Starfleet Command on Earth, Admiral Hayes stood before a holographic display showing clan-controlled territory growing like a cancer across Federation space. 3 Federation colonies occupied. 7 clan warships confirmed in Federation space through long-range sensors and deep space reconnaissance. Intelligence suggested more were coming, many more. The briefing room was packed with Starfleet's finest tactical minds, pulled from every corner of the Federation for this emergency council. Captain Shelby, promoted to his strategic planning division after distinguished service during the Dominion War. Commander Sisko, fresh from Deep Space Nine with experience fighting overwhelming odds against the Dominion. Captain Janeway from Voyager, bringing knowledge from 7 years in the Delta Quadrant fighting impossible battles against the Borg. Species 8472, and countless other threats. And representatives from Starfleet intelligence, engineering, tactical divisions, and even civilian analysts from the Daystrom Institute. Intelligence analysis, Hayes ordered, his voice heavy with fatigue. He'd barely slept in days, surviving on coffee and duty. The weight of billions of lives pressed down on him. Every decision he made could save or doom millions. Captain Shelby stepped forward, pulling up sensor data and analysis reports on the main display. Complex graphs and energy signature readings filled the screen. Sir, subspace monitoring stations along the Gamma Quadrant border have detected unusual gravitational anomalies over the past 72 hours. Massive space-time distortions consistent with the Clan KF drive signatures we observed during first contact at Panthara 4th and Rigel the 7th. The distortions are increasing in frequency and intensity. We believe they've established a stable corridor back to their home territory, possibly using some form of dimensional bridging technology we don't fully understand. Our physicists at the Daystrom Institute are working on the theoretical framework, but preliminary analysis suggests they're literally punching holes between different universes or alternate realities. She pulled up sensor recordings showing the rift formation. What's significant is the energy signature patterns. Each transit event generates approximately 10 to the 21st power joules of energy equivalent to a small star's output for several seconds. Dr. Leah Brahms from the Daystrom Institute added, "Admiral, we've analyzed the rift's stability. The dimensional breach can only support approximately 50,000 metric tons of mass transit per standard week before the exotic matter fields collapse. The clans are constrained not by will, but by physics. They cannot simply flood through with unlimited forces. Every warship they send through, every mech they transport, brings them closer to permanently severing their own supply line. If we can destroy their assets faster than they can safely replace them through the rift, we win the war of attrition. That level of energy expenditure suggests large-scale movement, not single ships. Fleets. That means reinforcements, supplies, and potentially unlimited forces flowing through the rift on a regular basis. As long as they maintain that corridor, they have an uninterrupted supply line to their home territory. We cannot cut them off through conventional blockade. How many ships are we talking about? Hayes asked, though he dreaded the answer. The early reports had been bad enough. Now this conservative estimate based on the energy signatures and our understanding of their ship classes, 20 to 30 warships in the immediate term, meaning within the next 2 to 4 weeks. 2,000 to 3,000 battle mechs based on dropship capacity calculations. Unknown numbers of support craft, jump ships, supply vessels, and personnel. Sir, if they commit their full military strength, and all intelligence suggests they have both the capability and the will, we're looking at the largest invasion force since the Dominion War, possibly larger in terms of ground combat capability and technological sophistication. Dr. Leah Brahms from Starfleet Engineering spoke up. Admiral, we've been analyzing wreckage from the destroyed warship at Rigel 7. Their armor is remarkable. Multi-layer composite, incorporating materials we're still identifying. Ablative outer layers, energy-dispersing middle layers, structural inner layers. It's designed to resist both energy weapons and kinetic impacts through different mechanisms. Our standard photon torpedoes barely penetrate it because the armor is optimized against the kind of weapons they face in their own universe, which are apparently similar to ours, but with different energy signatures and delivery mechanisms. That's the good news, Brahms continued. The bad news is, their weapons are equally sophisticated. Their particle projection cannons, PPCs, generate artificial lightning at temperatures exceeding 100,000 degrees Celsius. Their autocannons fire depleted uranium rounds at velocities we can barely track. Their missile systems carry submunitions that can overwhelm point defense through sheer numbers. And their targeting systems, while slower than ours at tracking fast-moving targets, are incredibly precise at medium to close range. A single battle mech, their standard ground combat unit, has firepower equivalent to a runabout's full armament, armor that can withstand multiple photon torpedo hits, and enough ammunition for sustained combat lasting hours. Hayes felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders like a physical burden that grew heavier with each revelation. The Dominion War had ended less than a year ago. Starfleet was still rebuilding, still recovering losses that had devastated entire fleets. Over 600 ships destroyed, tens of thousands of officers and crew dead. Infrastructure across a dozen systems damaged or destroyed. Ships were being pulled from mothballs and reactivated with inexperienced crews trained in accelerated programs. Training programs that were rushed, cutting corners, producing officers who would have needed another year of instruction under normal circumstances. And now this, a completely new enemy, with completely different tactics, requiring completely different responses, appearing at the worst possible time when Starfleet was at its weakest in decades. What are our advantages? Hayes asked, forcing himself to focus on solutions rather than problems. That was the key to command: acknowledge the challenges but focus on opportunities. Shelby pulled up tactical comparison data, green highlights showing Federation strengths against red showing clan advantages. We have superior numbers, approximately 300 combat-capable starships versus their estimated 30 warships. That's a 10-to-1 advantage in hulls, though not necessarily in combat power since their warships are tougher than our cruisers pound for pound. We have better sensors with longer range and higher resolution. We can detect them before they detect us, giving us first strike capability if we're willing to use it. Faster FTL travel that doesn't require fixed jump points. We can outmaneuver them strategically, hit targets they can't easily defend, withdraw before they can respond. The ability to replicate supplies and weapons in the field means we effectively have unlimited ammunition and replacement parts they need. Supply lines we can target. Our transporters give us tactical flexibility they can't match. Instant troop deployment, emergency medical evacuation. The ability to bypass ground defenses entirely by beaming strike teams directly into their ships or facilities. She highlighted another section. And we've developed new weapons specifically designed to counter their armor advantages. The transphasic torpedoes. Explain, Hayes ordered, leaning forward. This was the first piece of genuinely good news he'd heard. Modified quantum torpedoes using technology Captain Janeway brought back from her encounters with future Starfleet in the Delta Quadrant, Shelby explained. Standard quantum torpedoes detonate on contact, releasing their antimatter payload in normal space. Transphasic torpedoes use variable phase warheads that shift through multiple subspace frequencies during flight and on impact. They're designed to bypass conventional armor by existing partially out of phase with normal space. The warhead literally exists in multiple dimensional states simultaneously, allowing it to penetrate armor that would stop normal weapons. She pulled up test footage showing transphasic torpedoes hitting simulated targets. In simulated tests against projected clan warship armor specifications based on our analysis of the Rigel 7th wreckage, they've been devastatingly effective penetration rates of 93% compared to 62% for standard quantum torpedoes and only 47% for photon torpedoes. They essentially ignore the outer armor layers and detonate inside the hull structure, causing internal damage that's much harder to repair. How many do we have? Hayes leaned forward, hope flickering in his chest like a candle in darkness. Currently an inventory across all Starfleet facilities and vessels? 300. Production rate with current manufacturing capacity. 50 per week from our main torpedo production facilities at Utopia Planitia on Mars, Luna shipyards, and Antares fleet yards. In 6 months at maximum production, assuming we divert resources from other weapons programs and implement priority manufacturing protocols, we could have over 1,000. Possibly 1,500 if we implement emergency wartime production measures, use civilian manufacturing facilities, and run 3 shifts around the clock. Hayes nodded slowly, his tactical mind already working through scenarios, calculating distributions, planning fleet assignments. Then that's our core strategy. We avoid ground warfare, where they have demonstrated overwhelming superiority. We've seen at Panthara 4 and Rigel 7th that a single battle mech can fight off a company of Marines if properly supported. Their elementals can shrug off hand phasers and kill our troops in close combat, even when we're behind cover and they're advancing across open ground. We cannot win on the ground with current assets and training. Therefore, we force space battles where our numbers, speed, and technology can overwhelm them before they can bring their ground forces to bear. We use hit-and-run tactics, strike their supply lines, target their jump ships and drop ships while they're vulnerable during transit. We make every engagement cost them more than they can afford to lose. We bleed them with 1,000 cuts rather than risk decisive battles where one mistake could cost us everything. He turned to address the full assembly, making eye contact with each senior officer. Commander Shelby, you are hereby placed in charge of transphasic torpedo production and distribution. I want every frontline vessel equipped within 3 months. Priority distribution to ships assigned to likely combat zones based on clan movement patterns. Work with logistics to ensure we have manufacturing capacity, materials, and trained personnel to meet that deadline. You have carte blanche to requisition whatever you need. Captain Sisko, you'll coordinate our defensive strategy across all threatened sectors. Identify choke points where we can establish defensive positions. Establish patrol routes that maximize sensor coverage while minimizing response times. Determine optimal fleet deployments based on threat assessments and available assets. Use your Dominion War experience, think like an attacker, and figure out where you'd strike, then prepare defenses for those locations. Captain Janeway, I need you to brief our tactical officers on fighting technologically different opponents. Your experience with the Borg, species 8472, the Hirogen, the Vidians, and other Delta Quadrant species makes you uniquely qualified to teach our people how to adapt to unfamiliar threats. Develop training programs, run simulations, share every lesson you learned in 7 years of fighting your way home. Understood, Admiral, Janeway replied, her voice carrying the confidence of someone who'd faced impossible odds and survived. But I should note the clans aren't like the Borg. The Borg are predictable once you understand their adaptation algorithms and tactical priorities. They think collectively, act collectively, and their patterns can be analyzed and exploited once you have sufficient data. The clans are warriors with individual initiative, tactical flexibility, and a cultural framework we barely comprehend. They have pride, honor codes, personal ambitions. That makes them potentially more dangerous, in some ways less predictable, more creative, capable of adapting not just technologically but strategically. We can't just find one solution and apply it universally. We need to stay flexible, stay creative, and never assume we've figured them out completely. Hayes nodded grimly. Noted. Which brings me to our intelligence gap. We know how they fight, but we don't know why they fight the way they do. We don't understand their culture, their motivations, their decision-making processes. Commander Riker, he gestured to the Enterprise's first officer, who'd been observing quietly from the back of the room. I'm assigning the Enterprise to deep reconnaissance and intelligence gathering. Find out everything you can about clan culture, tactics, technology, psychology, history. Interrogate prisoners using every legal method available. Analyze wreckage down to the molecular level. Intercept their communications and break their codes. Study their literature if they have any. We need to understand these people if we're going to fight them effectively. Sun Tzu said, "Know your enemy." We need to know these clans better than they know themselves. The briefing continued for 3 more hours, covering logistics, medical preparations, civilian evacuations, diplomatic considerations with neighboring powers, economic impacts, industrial mobilization. But one point kept returning like a drumbeat. They had 6 months before the main clan force arrived. 6 months to prepare for a war that could determine the survival of the Federation itself. As the officers filed out, each heading to their assignments with renewed purpose, Shelby approached Hayes privately. The young captain's face showed the same exhaustion that Hayes felt, but also a burning determination. Admiral, there's one more thing. The Klingons have expressed strong interest in fighting the clans. Chancellor Gowron personally transmitted a message to the Federation Council. He sees them as worthy opponents, respects their warrior culture, wants the honor of facing them in battle. He's offering to commit 12 birds of prey, 4 Vorcha-class attack cruisers, and 6,000 warriors to our defense. It's a significant commitment. Hayes rubbed his tired eyes, feeling the headache that had been building for hours intensify. Tell the Chancellor we appreciate the offer, but must politely decline. This is a Federation matter, and we cannot risk expanding this into a wider conflict that pulls in other powers. The last thing we need is the Klingons turning this into some kind of blood feud or honor vendetta that we can't control, or the Romulans deciding to take advantage of the chaos to settle old scores, or the Cardassians seeing an opportunity for territorial expansion. Keep the Klingons informed through proper diplomatic channels. Maintain alliance protocols and share intelligence as appropriate. But this fight is ours alone. We cannot afford the complications that outside involvement would bring. Yes, sir. And sir? Shelby hesitated, uncertainty flickering across his normally confident face. What if we can't win? What if 6 months isn't enough time? What if everything we're planning isn't sufficient? Hayes met his eyes steadily, drawing on reserves of strength he didn't know he still possessed. Then we fight anyway, Captain, because that's what Starfleet does. We defend the Federation against all threats, foreign and domestic, regardless of the odds. We've faced the Borg at Wolf 359 and barely survived. We've faced the Dominion for 2 years of brutal warfare and came out bloodied but alive. We'll face the clans too. And we'll find a way to survive, because the alternative surrender, extinction, The end of everything the Federation represents is unacceptable. We fight because we must. We fight because billions of people are counting on us. We fight because there is no one else. And somehow, some way, we will prevail. We always have. We always will. But privately, alone in his office later that night, staring at casualty projections and tactical simulations, Hayes wasn't so certain. The computer models were brutal in their honesty. Even with every advantage, even with superior technology and numbers, even with transphasic torpedoes and perfect execution, the projections showed catastrophic losses. Millions of casualties in the first month of fighting, entire colonies lost to clan occupation, dozens of ships destroyed in battles that would be remembered as disasters comparable to Wolf 359. One simulation projected Federation defeat within 8 months if the clans achieved their strategic objectives. Another showed a grinding war of attrition lasting years with no clear victor. A third, the most optimistic, showed a narrow Federation victory, but at such cost that it would take decades to rebuild. Hayes saved the simulations to encrypted storage, then deleted them from the main system. His people needed hope, not despair. They needed to believe victory was possible, even if the mathematics suggested otherwise. The Federation was about to face a war unlike any it had ever fought, and Hayes wasn't certain they would survive it. But he would do his duty anyway, because that was what command demanded. That was what billions of civilians deserved. That was what Starfleet meant. He composed his first official war directive and sent it to every ship, every starbase, every installation in Federation space. To all Starfleet personnel, we face an enemy unlike any we have encountered. They possess technology that rivals our own, tactics we do not fully understand, and a warrior ethos that values honor and glory above survival. They have invaded Federation space, occupied our worlds, killed our people. They will not negotiate. They will not withdraw. They seek total conquest. This is a war for our very existence. Every officer, every crew member, every station commander must understand. We are the thin line between civilization and chaos. We will hold that line. We will defend the Federation. We will prevail. There is no alternative. Starfleet Command sends. The die was cast. The war was coming, and nothing would ever be the same again. Vulcan hung in space like a desert jewel, a harsh, beautiful world of logic and ancient philosophy where emotions had been mastered and set aside in favor of reason. The Vulcan Defense Force maintained minimal military assets, believing that superior intellect and negotiation could resolve most conflicts. That philosophy was about to face its ultimate test. Clan Ghostbear's fleet emerged from the KF jump point at the edge of the Vulcan system like predators materializing from darkness. 3 warships, the CWS, Winter's Fang, the Bear's Den, and the Northern Star hung in formation, their angular hulls painted in Ghostbear's blue and white colors. Around them, dropships prepared to unleash 200 battle mechs onto Vulcan's surface. Khan Bjorn Jorgensen stood on the bridge of the Winter's Fang, studying Vulcan's defenses with a tactician's eye. He was a thoughtful warrior, known throughout the clans for his strategic patience and willingness to consider alternatives to direct assault. But he was still a clan Khan, still bred for war, still bound by honor codes that demanded victory. "Sensor analysis," he ordered. His sensor operator, a scientist cast member assigned to his flagship, worked her console with practiced efficiency. Minimal orbital infrastructure, MyCon. 3 defense satellites of obsolete design. 1 shipyard facility that appears to be primarily civilian. A patrol fleet of perhaps 20 vessels ranging from small frigates to medium cruisers. Ground defenses appear concentrated around major cities, primarily energy weapons, installations, and what appear to be seismic stabilizers. "Seismic stabilizers?" Bjorn asked, his interest piqued. "Affirmative, MyCon. Vulcan is a tectonically active world with significant volcanic and seismic activity. The Freebirths use advanced technology to prevent earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. They have literally tamed their planet's geology through technological means. The stabilizers are positioned at key fault lines and volcanic hotspots." Bjorn smiled slightly, an expression that would have alarmed anyone who knew him well. Technology that controlled geological forces. Fascinating, These Vulcans might prove more interesting opponents than expected. A species that had mastered their planet's very geology would not be without resources, regardless of their apparent lack of military infrastructure. "Open a channel to Vulcan's government," he ordered. "We will offer them the chance for honorable surrender before we begin the assault. It is the clan way." The response came from the Vulcan High Command, transmitted from a secure facility deep beneath Vulcan's capital city of Shikar. An elderly Vulcan appeared on the view screen. His face seamed with age, but his eyes sharp with intelligence. Bjorn's database identified him immediately. Ambassador Sarek, one of Vulcan's most respected diplomats, father of the famous Spock who had served with Captain Kirk decades ago. "I am Ambassador Sarek of Vulcan," the old diplomat said, his voice utterly calm despite facing an invasion fleet. "You are violating Federation space and threatening a sovereign world. Logic dictates you withdraw immediately to avoid unnecessary conflict." "I am Khan Bjorn Jorgensen, of Clan Ghost Bear," Bjorn replied with formal courtesy. "We claim Vulcan by right of trial of possession, an ancient clan tradition that determines ownership through combat. Your defense forces against ours. If we win, Vulcan becomes clan territory and your people submit to our rule. If you win, we withdraw with honor intact and do not return. These are the terms, sanctified by traditions that predate your federation by centuries." "Your terms are illogical," Sarek said, and Bjorn could almost hear the calculation in the Vulcan's voice. "Vulcan does not settle disputes through violence. We propose instead a negotiated settlement technology exchange, cultural dialogue, establishment of mutual benefit rather than mutual destruction. We have much we could teach you about logic, philosophy, advanced science. You have much you could teach us about other matters. You refuse the trial? We refuse violence as the primary solution to political disagreement." However, Sarek's expression didn't change, but something in his tone suggested deeper consideration. "If you insist on attacking, we will defend ourselves with all resources available. But know this, Khan Bjorn Jorgensen, Vulcan has stood for thousands of years. We survived the time of awakening when our violent passions nearly destroyed us. We survived wars, disasters, plagues, and the complete reformation of our entire civilization from chaos to logic. We will survive you as well." The channel closed. Bjorn sat back in his command chair, considering. The Vulcan's calm certainty was either supreme confidence or supreme foolishness. The fact that Sarek had not panicked, had not pleaded, had not threatened, that was noteworthy. Either the Vulcans were fools who didn't understand the threat they faced, or they had resources clan intelligence hadn't identified. Only one way to find out which. "Begin the drop," Bjorn ordered. "But maintain standard rules of engagement. No civilian casualties unless absolutely necessary. We are Ghost Bear, not Smoke Jaguar. We conquer with honor." 200 clan Ghost Bear battle mechs descended on Vulcan like metallic meteors, their fusion reactors burning bright in the thin atmosphere. They targeted the major cities, Shikar, T'Pol, Kir, Gol, intending to seize population centers and government facilities to force surrender. It was standard clan doctrine, proven across hundreds of worlds in their own galaxy. But the Vulcans were ready, and they were far from helpless. Star Captain Marcus led his binary 10 mechs, including 2 massive Kodiak assault mechs weighing 100 tons each, into the outskirts of Shikar. The city was a marvel of architecture, blended seamlessly with natural landscape, buildings of rust-red stone that seemed to grow organically from the desert, gardens cultivated in impossible places through careful water management, all of it precisely ordered according to mathematical principles of efficiency and beauty. "Scan for defensive positions," Marcus ordered from his Kodiak's cockpit. The mech's sensors swept the city, analyzing heat signatures, electromagnetic emissions, movement patterns, infantry, armor, anything that might pose a threat to our advance. The ground exploded beneath his Kodiak, not from weapons fire from beneath. Shaped seismic charges, the same technology Vulcans used to prevent earthquakes, now weaponized and repurposed. The carefully calculated tremors destabilized the ground in a precise pattern, creating localized earthquakes that knocked mechs off balance without damaging the surrounding buildings. Marcus's 100-ton Kodiak stumbled, its gyroscopes screaming as they tried to compensate for terrain that suddenly behaved like liquid. Warning lights flashed across his console, balance critical. Gyro strain at 93%, actuator stress in both legs approaching maximum tolerance. Seismic attack, he shouted over the command channel. All units, activate jump jets, get off the ground now. But jump jets required careful timing and stable footing to initiate. As the mechs struggled to engage their jets, Vulcan defense forces hit them with concentrated weapons fire, not hand phasers, which had proven ineffective, but industrial cutting lasers designed for mining and manufacturing, now retargeted for combat. The beams weren't powerful enough to penetrate battlemech armor directly, but they were precise enough to target vulnerable systems with surgical accuracy. A laser struck Marcus's Kodiak's left knee actuator mid-jump activation. The joint, already stressed by the seismic instability, failed catastrophically. The mech lifted off the ground, lost control, and came crashing down 90 tons of metal, hitting unstable terrain at terminal velocity. The impact was devastating. The left leg crumpled completely, my-armor bundles tearing, actuators shattering, armor plates buckling. The Kodiak tumbled forward, and Marcus fought his controls desperately, managed to stabilize the mech in a kneeling position. But the damage was done. Binary. This is Marcus. He transmitted, his voice tight with frustration. I am mission killed. Left leg destroyed. Mobility at 0%. Weapons still functional, but I cannot maneuver. Proceed without me, and complete the objective. Across Shikar and the other targeted cities, similar scenes played out with methodical precision. The Vulcans, applying pure logic to the problem of defending against battle mechs, had analyzed every possible weakness and developed counters. They lured mechs into lava fields, where ambient temperatures of 800 degrees Celsius overwhelmed, even advanced cooling systems, forcing emergency shutdowns. They used ancient stone structures, buildings that had stood for thousands of years as cover that mechs couldn't easily destroy without massive collateral damage that their own honor codes prevented. They employed logical, precise tactics that maximized damage to clan forces while minimizing their own exposure and casualties. It was warfare stripped of passion, reduced to mathematical optimization, executed with perfect discipline, and it was working. A star of Ghost Bear mechs pursued what appeared to be a Vulcan military transport into a narrow canyon outside T'Pol. The transport stopped at the canyon's deepest point. The mechs entered the kill zone, thinking they had cornered easy prey, and the Vulcans triggered pre-positioned seismic charges that brought down both canyon walls in a perfectly calculated avalanche. 5 battle mechs, 350 tons of advanced military hardware, worth billions of C-bills buried under 10,000 tons of rock. Pilots survived in their reinforced cockpits, but their machines were completely disabled, would take weeks to excavate and repair if they could be salvaged at all. Khan Bjorn watched the battle from orbit, his respect for these Vulcans growing with each report. They weren't warriors in the clan sense. They had no warrior caste, no culture of honor combat, no genetic breeding programs to produce superior fighters. But they were intelligent, adaptive, and ruthlessly logical in their defense. After 6 hours of combat, his forces had lost 18 mechs, not destroyed, but mission killed, crippled, or captured. They'd inflicted minimal casualties on the Vulcans, who fought with surgical precision to disable rather than kill. And his warriors were frustrated, their usual tactics ineffective against opponents who refused to fight honorably by clan standards but instead used every advantage logic could provide. Then Ambassador Sarek's face appeared on his view screen again, transmitted from deep within Shikar's government bunker. Khan Bjorn, your forces have fought with skill and courage. Our forces have defended with logic and preparation. The result is stalemate. You cannot take our cities without destroying them completely, and we cannot force you to withdraw without orbital superiority that we lack. I propose an alternative solution. Hegira. Hegira? Bjorn was surprised. The Vulcan knew clan terminology. Honorable withdrawal? Indeed. Clan tradition allows for Hegira when neither side can achieve decisive victory without unacceptable losses, correct? We propose the following terms. Your forces withdraw from Vulcan immediately and completely. In exchange, we provide you with complete and unrestricted access to Vulcan scientific databases. technology, medicine, philosophy, mathematics, theoretical physics, everything we have accumulated over 4,000 years of recorded history. You gain knowledge that could revolutionize clan science. We maintain sovereignty and territorial integrity. Both sides benefit rather than bleed. This is logical, Bjorn considered carefully. His mission was to conquer Vulcan, to prove clan superiority, to claim this world for Ghost Bear, and through it enhance the clan's prestige and power. But he was also a practical warrior who understood that some victories cost more than they were worth. The Vulcans had proven themselves formidable defenders. Taking their cities would require massive destruction, countless civilian casualties that would violate Ghost Bear honor codes and probably cost him half his force in the process. And for what? To hold a planet he couldn't properly occupy while Starfleet fleets descended on him with overwhelming numbers? But if he accepted the technology transfer, Vulcan's scientific knowledge was legendary even in the brief intelligence reports Natasha had provided. Medical advances, physics breakthroughs, engineering innovations developed over millennia. That knowledge could advance Ghost Bear science by decades, maybe centuries. I accept Hegira, Bjorn said, his decision made. But know this, Ambassador, I do so because you have proven yourselves worthy of respect through your defense. You fought with honor, if not with warriors. You demonstrated that logic can be as effective as ferocity when properly applied. Ghost Bear will remember this day, and remember Vulcan as allies who earned their sovereignty rather than enemies who were conquered. As will Vulcan remember Ghost Bear, Sarek replied, and was that the faintest hint of approval in the Vulcan's voice? Live long and prosper, Khan Bjorn. May your journey be logical and your future prosperous. The Ghost Bear forces withdrew, loading damaged mechs onto dropships and departing the system within hours. The other clans watching from their own positions were outraged by the development. On the CWS Blood Oath, flagship of Clan Smoke Jaguar, Khan Lincoln Osis watched the Ghost Bear retreat with disgust twisting his brutal features. Cowards, he spat, his massive fist slamming into the armrest of his command chair hard enough to dent the metal. Ghost Bear accepts Hegira from free births? They negotiate withdrawal like merchants haggling over prices? They shame all clans with this weakness. They prove themselves Desgra through their actions. His Sakon, Brandon Howell, nodded agreement, his own face showing contempt for Ghost Bear's decision. The other clans will see this as proof that Ghost Bear has gone soft, my Khan, that they lack the warrior spirit necessary for true conquest. But it provides us opportunity. Where Ghost Bear shows mercy and weakness, we will show strength and resolve. Where they negotiate and compromise, we will conquer without quarter. Where they accept technology in exchange for territory, we will take both technology and territory through superior force. You speak truth, Osis said, his mind already working through possibilities. We will strike a target so devastating, so brutal, that the Federation will understand what real clan warriors can do. Not negotiations, not Hegira, not technology exchanges. Total conquest through overwhelming force and willingness to do whatever is necessary for victory. He studied his star charts, looking for a target that would make the perfect statement. His eyes settled on a colony marked Deneva moderate population, minimal defenses, strategic location, symbolic value, perfect. There, Deneva, a civilian colony, minimal military presence, 2 million inhabitants. We will take it in one day and show these freebirths what happens when they resist the clans. We will show them that the Smoke Jaguars do not negotiate. We do not compromise. We conquer absolutely, or we die trying. The other clans may object to targeting civilians, my Khan. Even Jade Falcon maintains some standards regarding non-combatants. Let them object, Osis snarled, his voice filled with contempt for weakness wherever it might be found. Smoke Jaguar does not seek the approval of weaklings and cowards. We seek victory. Absolute, total, unconditional victory. And we will achieve it through superior firepower and the willingness to do what must be done, regardless of who disapproves. The freebirths will learn that mercy is weakness, and weakness invites destruction. 3 days later, Clan Smoke Jaguar attacked Deneva with forces that had been intended for other targets, redirected by Osis's direct orders. The colony never had a chance. Smoke Jaguar warships destroyed the orbital defenses in the first-hour defense, satellites, patrol ships, even civilian vessels that got in the way. Then they began the orbital bombardment, not precision strikes on military targets as clan honor theoretically demanded, but indiscriminate attacks on population centers. Entire city districts vaporized under naval-grade PPCs and mass driver rounds. Millions incinerated in minutes, as Smoke Jaguar demonstrated what happened when clan honor was subordinated to brutality. When the battlemechs finally dropped through the smoke and fire, they found a devastated world. The few surviving defenders, colonial militia, armed with outdated weapons and no training for warfare on this scale, tried to resist. Smoke Jaguar elementals gunned them down without mercy, treating armed resistance and civilian flight as equally worthy of death. Civilians who raised hands in surrender were shot as potential future threats. It was genocide dressed in the language of military conquest, atrocity disguised as warfare. By the time Starfleet arrived responding to automated distress signals that had taken hours to reach the nearest base, 2 million people were dead. Deneva was a charnel house, its cities in ruins, its population massacred, bodies lay in the streets by the thousands. Smoke hung over the landscape like a funeral shroud. On the bridge of the USS Enterprise E, Captain Jean-Luc Picard watched the casualty reports with horror turning to rage that burned cold and focused in his chest. 2 million, he said quietly, his voice shaking despite his best efforts at control. 2 million civilians murdered, not killed in combat, not caught in crossfire during legitimate military operations, deliberately targeted and exterminated like vermin. This is not warfare. This is genocide. Commander Riker stood beside him, equally shaken, his own hands clenched into fists as he fought to maintain professional composure. Sir, this is a war crime by any standard. We recognize Federation law, Klingon honor codes, even Romulan military doctrine. This violates every principle of warfare we acknowledge. Agreed. Picard turned to his tactical officer, his voice hardening into something cold and terrible. Lieutenant, transmit the following message to Starfleet Command with Priority 1 encryption. Request immediate authorization for unrestricted warfare against Clan Smoke Jaguar specifically. No prisoners unless they surrender unconditionally, no quarter in combat, no mercy for forces that commit atrocities. These butchers have forfeited any claim to honorable treatment under the rules of war. We will hunt them down and destroy them utterly. Captain, Counselor Troy said gently, sensing the rage and pain radiating from him through her empathic abilities. I understand your anger. We all feel it. The deaths here are horrific beyond measure. But responding to atrocity with atrocity, meeting brutality with brutality that makes us no better than them, we cannot let righteous anger turn us into the monsters we fight. I'm not proposing we massacre civilians, Counselor, Picard said, his voice tightly controlled but burning with cold fury. I'm proposing we destroy Smoke Jaguar's military capacity completely and without reservation. Their warships, their battlemechs, their supply lines, their bases, everything. We make it impossible for them to commit another atrocity like this. We eliminate them as a military force. That is not becoming monsters, that is being responsible for protecting the innocent from those who would slaughter them without conscience. The response from Starfleet Command came within the hour, transmitted with Admiral Hayes' personal authorization. Unrestricted warfare against Clan Smoke Jaguar approved. 3 starships were assigned to hunt them down: the Enterprise E under Picard's command, the Defiant commanded by Captain Sisko, and the Voyager under Captain Janeway. Their mission: find Smoke Jaguar's forces and eliminate them as a military threat to the Federation. The authorization included a final line that Picard found both troubling and necessary. The Federation will not become the monsters we fight, but we will ensure monsters have no place in civilized space. Execute with extreme prejudice. The hunt led them to the Mutara Nebula, a region of space filled with ionized gases, protoplanetary material, and electromagnetic interference that degraded sensors on both sides. Perfect hiding place for a cornered enemy seeking to avoid detection, or perfect ambush site for a predator waiting to strike. The 3 Starfleet vessels entered the nebula in formation, Sensors at maximum power despite degraded performance, weapons ready, every crew member at their station. Somewhere in the clouded darkness, 3 Smoke Jaguar warships waited, their crews knowing they faced annihilation but refusing to surrender because clan honor demanded they fight to the death. Captain Benjamin Sisko stood at the Defiant's helm, recently returned from the Celestial Temple. The prophets had released him from their realm to face a threat they could not fully comprehend, warriors from beyond the boundaries of their linear existence. He'd returned to find a war already underway, and immediately taken command of his ship. "This is insane," Chief O'Brien muttered on the Defiant's bridge, his experienced eyes watching sensor displays that showed mostly static and ghost images. "Fighting in a nebula where we're half-blind, where our targeting systems are compromised? It's suicide waiting to happen." "It's necessary," Captain Sisko replied grimly, his own experience from years of warfare telling him this would be ugly but unavoidable. He'd been given temporary command of the task force, his combat experience from the Dominion War making him the logical choice for a hunt-and-kill mission. The Smoke Jaguars committed genocide. They massacred 2 million civilians in cold blood. They need to answer for it. They need to understand that atrocities have consequences. Weapons ready. Watch your sensors with everything you have. The moment you detect anything. "Contact!" Tactical shouted, his voice tight with adrenaline. "Bearing 27 Mark IV. It's a warship. The Hunter's Moon." The CWS Hunter's Moon, a Lola 3 class destroyer and flagship of Khan Lincoln Osis, emerged from the nebula's murk like a predatory shark from dark water. Its angular hull was painted in Smoke Jaguar's colors, crimson and black, appropriate for a clan that had embraced brutality over honor. Its naval autocannons opened fire immediately, filling space with streams of depleted uranium rounds moving at velocities that made them nearly impossible to track. The Defiant's shields flared under the impact, holding but taking damage as hundreds of kinetic rounds transferred their momentum into the shield generators. The small ship shuddered, alarms wailing, but held together through Sisko's expert maneuvering and the ship's reinforced space frame. "Return fire," Sisko ordered, his voice calm despite the chaos erupting around him. "Quantum torpedoes, full spread. Enterprise, Voyager, flank that ship. Don't let it concentrate fire on one target or it'll overwhelm our defenses through sheer sustained damage." The 3 Starfleet vessels spread out, their superior maneuverability evident even in the sensor-degraded environment of the nebula. They circled the Hunter's Moon like wolves around a wounded bear, fast, coordinated, deadly, each ship covering the others. Quantum torpedoes hammered the warship's armor from 3 directions simultaneously. Phaser fire targeted weapon systems and sensor arrays with surgical precision when targeting locks could be achieved. The combined fire was devastating, exploiting every weakness in the clan ship's defenses. But the Hunter's Moon wasn't alone, and Smoke Jaguar hadn't survived this long by being stupid or unprepared. 2 more Smoke Jaguar warships, the Blood Oath and Killing Blow, emerged from different vectors in the nebula, catching the Starfleet ships in a carefully planned crossfire. It had been a trap all along, bait and ambush, predator and prey reversed from what Starfleet had expected. "Multiple contacts," O'Brien shouted, his voice rising despite years of combat experience. 3 warships total. We're surrounded. They were waiting for us." The battle became chaos incarnate. 6 ships in close quarters, sensors barely functioning, weapons fire lighting up the nebula like lightning in storm clouds. The Voyager took a direct hit from a capital-grade PPC. Her shields collapsed under the sustained energy bombardment, and the beam carved a gash through her secondary hull that vented 3 decks to space. The Enterprise fired transphasic torpedoes at point-blank range at the Killing Blow, the new weapons phasing through armor that should have been impenetrable and detonating internally. The warship shuddered, hemorrhaged atmosphere from a dozen breaches, listed badly as internal systems failed, but kept fighting because Smoke Jaguar warriors knew only death or victory. On the Defiant's bridge, Captain Sisko watched the tactical situation deteriorate and made a decision born of desperation, fury, and the certain knowledge that some prices must be paid to stop monsters from killing again. "Helm, ramming speed," he ordered, his voice quiet, but carrying absolute authority. "Target the Hunter's Moon. All hands, prepare for collision. Abandon ship procedures on my mark. We're going to stop these bastards, even if it costs us everything. Sir, you can't be serious. O'Brien protested, horror evident in his voice. The Defiant was his ship, his pride, the vessel he'd helped design and build. There has to be another way. There isn't, Chief. That warship is the flagship. Khan Osis commands from there the monster who ordered the Geneva massacre. We take him out. We decapitate Smoke Jaguar's leadership. We show them that atrocities have consequences that reach to the highest levels. We make sure he never orders another genocide. Now execute my orders. The defiant, tough little ship that she was, built to fight the Borg, designed to take incredible punishment and keep fighting accelerated to full impulse on a collision course with the Hunter's moon. The clan warship's point defense systems opened fire desperately, autocannons and lasers tracking the small Federation vessel. But the Defiant was designed for exactly this kind of suicidal approach. Her ablative armor could take incredible punishment for a ship her size, and at this range nothing could stop her. At the last second before impact, Cisco hit the intercom with practiced calm. All hands, abandon ship immediately. Transporters, energize on my mark. Mark! The crew beamed to the Enterprise and Voyager in coordinated transporter operations that had been planned for exactly this contingency. And the Defiant, unmanned now, moving at full impulse, her warp core deliberately overloading on a timer that would detonate in exactly 15 seconds, crashed into the Hunter's moon's flank at a closing velocity that made the impact catastrophic. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away, a brief new star born and dying in the Mutara Nebula. When the light faded and sensors cleared, the Hunter's moon was a hulk, her entire starboard side vaporized by the Defiant's warp core breach. Her fusion reactors offline, her life support failing, her crew dead or dying in the exposed sections. Khan Lincoln Osis, architect of the Geneva massacre, died instantly when the explosion ripped through his command deck, vaporizing him and his senior officers before they could even comprehend their death. Target destroyed, the Enterprise's tactical officer reported quietly, his voice reflecting the somber mood on the bridge. The Hunter's moon is a total loss. Khan Osis is confirmed dead. Smoke Jaguar leadership is decapitated. The remaining 2 Smoke Jaguar warships, their Khan dead and their flagship destroyed, made the calculation that survival outweighed honor. They retreated at maximum acceleration, jumping to hyperspace as soon as they could safely engage their drives. They'd lost, decisively, humiliatingly, and they would carry that shame back to the clan homeworlds. On the Enterprise, Picard stood in silence, looking at the wreckage floating in the nebula pieces of both the Defiant and the Hunter's moon. Metal twisted and melted. Debris that had once been ships and was now just scattered atoms. The Defiant was gone, a ship he'd served on, that had saved the Federation more times than he could count, sacrificed to stop a monster. It wasn't enough. 2 million people were still dead, their lives snuffed out in an orgy of violence that violated every principle of civilized warfare. No victory could bring them back. No revenge could balance that scale. But it was something. It was justice, of a sort. And it ensured that Khan Lincoln Osis would never order another massacre. Captain, Riker said quietly, breaking the silence that had fallen over the bridge. The Defiant. She was a good ship. Captain Cisco made the right call. But we've lost an irreplaceable asset and a dear friend's command. Picard finished, his voice heavy with grief and exhaustion. Yes, number 1. The cost of this war continues to mount. Every battle, every victory, we lose something precious. And I fear we've only begun to pay the price this conflict will ultimately demand. News of the Smoke Jaguar's defeat and Ghost Bear's negotiated withdrawal spread through the clan forces like wildfire, transmitted on military frequencies and passed between warriors with a mixture of shock, outrage, and in some cases grim satisfaction. The carefully coordinated invasion was fracturing along lines of clan rivalry, honor interpretation, and strategic philosophy. Clan Ghost Bear, emboldened by their successful negotiation with Vulcan and the treasure trove of scientific knowledge they'd gained, began seeking similar arrangements with other Federation worlds. Khan Bjorn saw the opportunity to gain Federation technology without the grinding losses of total war, to strengthen Ghost Bear through knowledge rather than conquest. They offered non-aggression pacts, technology exchanges, even defensive alliances to worlds willing to negotiate. It was pragmatic, logical, and completely at odds with traditional clan thinking. Clan Jade Falcon, seeing Wolf and Ghost Bear as weakened by their moderation and desperate to prove Falcon's superiority, pushed harder for total conquest. They committed more resources, more warriors, seeking to prove through victory what others had failed to achieve. Khan Elias Critchell became obsessed with taking Earth itself, seeing it as the ultimate prize that would cement Jade Falcon's claim to supremacy among all clans. Clan Steel Viper, opportunistic and ambitious under Khan Vandervon Chistu's leadership, saw the chaos as a chance to claim the position of Ilkhan for themselves. They began political maneuvering within the clan power structure, gathering support among other clans, positioning themselves as the solution to the invasion's failures. Chistu didn't care about the Federation as much as he cared about using the war to advance Steel Viper's position in clan society. And Clan Wolf remained neutral under Natasha Kerensky's steady hand, watching the dissolution with grim satisfaction tempered by concern. She'd warned them this would happen. She'd predicted the fractures, the infighting, the inability to maintain unity against an adaptive enemy. They hadn't listened. Now the clans were fighting each other as much as they were fighting the Federation, and the invasion that should have been an overwhelming conquest was turning into a confused mess of competing objectives and conflicting strategies. Ilkhan Ulrich Kerensky, nominally in supreme command but increasingly unable to control the clan Khans, who each pursued their own agendas, called an emergency council via subspace communication. The Khans appeared on holographic displays, each from their own flagship scattered across Federation space, and the meeting devolved into acrimony almost immediately. "This invasion is becoming a disaster," Showers roared, his scarred face red with fury and frustration. "Ghost Bear negotiates with freebirths like merchants. Smoke Jaguar massacres civilians and brings down the entire Federation military on our heads. Jade Falcon acts independently without coordination. Steel Viper politics instead of fighting. We are losing cohesion. We are losing focus. We are losing the war." "Perhaps the invasion was ill-conceived from the start," Khan Bjorn said calmly, his composure infuriating Showers even more. "The Federation is stronger than anticipated. They adapt faster than we predicted. They have resources we cannot match in a prolonged conflict. A negotiated settlement that allows us to gain their technology while preserving our forces." Negotiated settlement? Showers was apoplectic, spittle flying from his lips. "We are clans. We do not negotiate with freebirths. We conquer or we die trying. That is the way. That is our heritage. That is what Nicholas Kerensky taught us. Then perhaps we should die." Khan Vandervon Chistu of Steel Viper said coldly, his smooth voice carrying calculated menace. "Because your leadership has led us to defeat after defeat," Ilkhan Showers. "Ghost Bear negotiates because your strategy failed. Smoke Jaguar committed atrocities because your coordination was lacking. Jade Falcon acts independently because they have lost faith in your command. I call for a vote of no confidence. Ilkhan Showers has proven unworthy of his position. Steel Viper should assume command of this invasion before more disasters occur." The council erupted in chaos. Accusations flew between Khans like weapons fire. Ancient grudges surfaced that had nothing to do with the Federation and everything to do with clan politics, stretching back decades. The clans, always fractious, always competitive, turned on each other with the same ferocity they should have been directing at the enemy. And in that moment of distraction, of internal conflict and political maneuvering, Starfleet struck with coordinated precision born of months of preparation. Over the next 3 months, Starfleet's carefully planned offensive destroyed 8 clan warships and engagements that exploited every weakness the clans had revealed. They targeted isolated vessels with overwhelming force, used transphasic torpedoes that the clans couldn't effectively counter, employed hit-and-run tactics that prevented the clans from bringing their superior armor and firepower to bear. They struck supply lines, destroyed dropships caught in transit, ambushed jump ships while they were vulnerable during recharging periods. The mathematics of attrition turned against the clans. 12 warships had come through the rift initially. 20 more had followed, but losses mounted faster than replacements arrived. 8 destroyed by Starfleet action, 2 more crippled beyond repair, 1 captured when its crew was killed by a lucky torpedo hit to the bridge. The clan forces that had seemed overwhelming just months ago were being whittled down by an enemy that refused to fight the kind of war the clans expected. The remaining clans bloodied, exhausted, politically fractured, cut off from easy reinforcement, were forced into defensive positions in the territories they'd already captured. They held 12 Federation worlds through sheer stubbornness and ground superiority, but they couldn't advance further. They controlled the surface but not the orbitals. They had the territory but not the strategic initiative. The invasion had stalled. The war had become a stalemate, and both sides were bleeding too much to continue indefinitely without finding some resolution that didn't involve mutual annihilation. But the war was far from over. New players were about to enter the game, and the deadlock would soon be broken in ways neither side anticipated. The war had ground to a bloody stalemate that satisfied no one and cost everyone dearly. On the CWS Grey Wolf, Con Natasha Kerensky stood in her ready room, staring at tactical displays that told a story of Pyrrhic victories and strategic frustration. 12 Federation worlds occupied by clan forces, held through sheer ground superiority and the determination of warriors who refused to admit defeat. But those worlds were islands in a hostile sea, surrounded by Federation orbital assets that could bombard at will, cut off from easy reinforcement, draining resources faster than the clans could replace them. The mathematics were brutal and undeniable. Of the 32 warships that had entered Federation space with such confidence, only 20 remained combat capable. 12 had been destroyed outright, vaporized in engagements where Federation numbers overwhelmed clan armor, caught in ambushes by ships equipped with those damned transphasic torpedoes that phased through armor like it wasn't there. 2 more were crippled beyond field repair, limping back toward the clan homeworlds with skeleton crews and critical systems failing. 1 had been captured intact when a lucky Federation torpedo strike killed everyone on the bridge and left the ship drifting, helpless, until Starfleet boarding parties secured it. 800 battlemechs lost, destroyed, captured, or so badly damaged they'd been cannibalized for parts to keep other units operational. 3,000 elementals dead, their gene legacies extinguished, their names added to the growing rolls of warriors who would never return home. The clans had bled the Federation badly, but they were bleeding out themselves, slowly but inexorably. And the Federation? Natasha pulled up their casualty reports, compiled from intercepted transmissions and intelligence gathered by Ghost Bear's scientist cast. 50 starships destroyed, a significant loss, but representing less than 15% of Starfleet's total combat capability. 20 million civilians dead, most of them in Smoke Jaguar's atrocity at Deneva, a massacre that had turned even moderate Federation worlds into implacable enemies of the clans. The Federation was hurt, angry, and determined, but it was far from broken. The door chimed. "Enter," Natasha said without turning from the displays. Con Bjorn Jorgensen of Ghost Bear stepped in, his broad frame filling the doorway. He'd aged in the months since the invasion began, new lines around his eyes, new scars on his hands from a close-quarters fight when his flagship had been boarded. But his eyes remained sharp, analytical, seeing clearly what others refused to acknowledge. "We need to talk," Bjorn said without preamble, "about ending this war before it destroys us both." Natasha gestured to a chair. "I've been thinking the same thing, but you know as well as I do that neither side can simply stop fighting. The Federation won't accept our occupation of their worlds. The clans won't accept withdrawal without achieving something they can call victory. Pride and politics trap us both. Then we need a third option," Bjorn said, sitting heavily. "Something that gives both sides what they need while ending the bloodshed. The longer this continues, the weaker we all become, and there are powers in this galaxy that would exploit that weakness. The Romulans watch from the shadows. The Klingons grow restless. Even internal Federation politics are fracturing under the strain. What do you propose?" "A trial of absorption," Bjorn said, his voice carrying absolute conviction. "Not trial of possession. This isn't about taking territory. Trial of absorption, a formal treaty decided by single battle. Both sides commit their best forces. One engagement. Winner takes all disputed worlds. But the loser doesn't face Desgra, doesn't suffer permanent dishonor. They withdraw, yes, but with honor intact, with the understanding that both sides fought their hardest and fate decided the outcome. Natasha considered this carefully. The other Khans will object. Jade Falcon still dreams of total conquest. Steel Viper wants to use the war for political advantage. Even Wolf's own warriors might see negotiated battle as weakness. Then we don't ask permission, Bjorn said flatly. You and I command the only two clans still capable of sustained operations. Jade Falcon is exhausted, their forces scattered across 3 systems, trying to hold positions they can't properly defend. Steel Viper spends more time on political maneuvering than actual combat. Smoke Jaguar is leaderless and demoralized. If Wolf and Ghost Bear propose this together, backed by our combat records and our remaining strength, the others must accept or look like cowards unwilling to risk everything on one decisive engagement. And the Federation? Captain Picard will listen, Bjorn said. I've studied him through our intelligence reports. He's a warrior diplomat, understands both honor and practicality. He knows this stalemate benefits no one. If we approach him with a formal proposal, frame it as a way to end the war without more civilian casualties, he'll at least present it to his superiors. And Starfleet Command. Bjorn pulled up casualty projections on his datapad. They're looking at years of grinding attrition if this continues. A single decisive battle that ends the war, they'll see the strategic value. Natasha stood, walked to the viewport, showing the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, Federation fleets gathered, planned their next strikes, mourned their dead and prepared to kill more clan warriors. And in clan space, hardliners demanded escalation, moderates argued for negotiation, and the whole carefully constructed clan society threatened to tear itself apart over disagreements about this war. We do this. We're betting everything on one battle, she said quietly. If we lose all 12 occupied worlds, withdraw completely, and face political consequences at home that could destroy both our clans. If we win, we gain legitimacy for our occupation, force the Federation to accept our presence, but still face the problem of holding territory we barely control. True, Bjorn acknowledged. But continuing as we are means slow defeat through attrition. At least this way, we decide our fate through combat the clan way, and regardless of who wins, the bloodshed ends. That matters, Natasha. It should matter. She turned to face him, saw in his eyes the same calculation she'd made herself. This war had already cost too much. Pride had driven them here, but wisdom demanded they find a way out that preserved something of value from the wreckage. Very well, Natasha decided. We propose trial of absorption. I'll contact Picard directly on an open channel, let all the clans see that Wolf takes this step, that we're not ashamed to seek honorable resolution. You coordinate with the other Khans. Make it clear that Ghost Bear stands with Wolf in this. Between our two clans, we can force acceptance. And if the hardliners refuse, then they can try to continue the war without our support, Natasha said coldly. Without Wolf and Ghost Bear's warships, without our warriors, they'll last maybe 3 months before Starfleet destroys them. They'll accept because the alternative is extinction. 2 days later, Natasha's message reached the USS Enterprise E on a wide-band frequency that every ship in the sector, clan and Federation alike, could monitor. Captain Picard, this is Khan Natasha Kerensky of Clan Wolf. I speak also for Khan Bjorn Jorgensen of Clan Ghost Bear. We propose formal cessation of hostilities, to be replaced by trial of absorption under clan tradition as modified for current circumstances. Single engagement. Both sides commit champion forces. Winner claims all disputed territory. This is not surrender, this is honorable resolution of conflict that has cost both our peoples too much. Will you negotiate? Picard stood on his bridge, every officer watching him, waiting for his response. Behind him, Counselor Troy whispered, "She's sincere, Captain. I sense exhaustion, determination, and hope. She wants this war to end." "As do we all, Counselor," Picard said quietly. Then louder, "Open channel. Wideband response. He stood straight, looked directly at the view screen as if making eye contact with Natasha across the light years. Khan Kerensky, I am authorized to negotiate on behalf of Starfleet Command and the Federation Council. Your proposal has merit. But understand, we will not agree to terms that legitimize the occupation of Federation worlds, that validate the deaths of millions of civilians, or that compromise our fundamental principles. If you genuinely seek peace, we must discuss not just battle conditions but post-conflict resolution that both sides can accept. He paused, then added, but yes, we will negotiate, because ending this war serves both our peoples. Enterprise. Out. Within hours, the subspace channels were burning with activity. On the Federation side, Admiral Hayes convened an emergency session of Starfleet Command, debating the wisdom of accepting clan terms, calculating odds, wargaming scenarios. On the clan side, Khans argued bitterly, some seeing opportunity, others seeing betrayal, all of them knowing that the decision would reshape clan society regardless of outcome. 3 days of intense negotiation followed, conducted via secure channel with Picard and Natasha as primary negotiators, backed by their respective command structures. The arguments were fierce, the concessions painful, but both sides recognized the same truth. The alternative to agreement was mutual destruction. The final terms of what would become known as the Breen Accords. Location: Breen System Neutral Territory, neither clan-occupied nor Federation core space. Strategically insignificant, but symbolically important as neither side's home ground. Forces committed clan side. 100 battle mechs. Best warriors from all clans. Elite blood-named mech warriors. 500 elementals. Support from 20 warships for space engagement. Khan Natasha Kerensky in overall command, with Khan Bjorn as second. Forces committed Federation side. 50 starships, ranging from frigates to heavy cruisers, 10,000 ground troops with mechanized support and artillery, air superiority fighters, full tactical support. Fleet Admiral William Ross in command of Space Forces. General Martok of the Klingon Empire, commanding ground forces as Allied contribution over Federation objections. Chancellor Gowron had insisted. Klingon honor demanded participation. Rules of engagement. Space battle. Warships versus Starfleet vessels. No restrictions on tactics or weapons. Engagement continues until one side achieves decisive advantage or tactical withdrawal. Ground battle. Mechs and elementals versus Federation ground army. Limited to designated combat zone on Breen 4th's northern continent. No orbital bombardment during ground phase. Clan honor code respected. Engagement continues until one side controls 3 strategic objectives or opponent concedes. Both engagements, simultaneous victory in one does not guarantee overall victory. Final determination based on strategic objectives achieved across both battle spaces. Stakes. Winner claims all 12 disputed worlds. Loser withdraws all forces from Federation space. If clans lose, or Federation accepts clan occupation and establishes formal diplomatic relations, if Federation loses. Technology exchange regardless of outcome. Both sides gain access to each other's non-military tech as gesture of future cooperation. Timeline: 30 days to marshal forces. Then one battle to decide everything. Both sides began preparations immediately, knowing they were committing to the largest single engagement of the entire war. On Earth, Starfleet Command mobilized with cold efficiency. Ships were pulled from patrol duties, crews given crash courses in fighting clan tactics, weapons officers drilled relentlessly on transphasic torpedo deployment. Ground forces trained specifically for anti-mech warfare, isolating individual units, targeting vulnerabilities, coordinating overwhelming fire. Vulcan tactical computers ran endless simulations, calculating optimal engagement strategies, identifying clan weaknesses that could be exploited. But there were other preparations as well. Medical facilities expanded to handle anticipated casualties. Civilian evacuation plans finalized for worlds along the Clan Federation border. And in quiet offices far from the public eye, Federation diplomats drafted 2 versions of the post-battle treaty, one for victory, one for defeat, because both outcomes had to be planned for, even if only one would be needed. Chancellor Gowron had personally led 4,000 Klingon warriors to join the Federation ground forces over Admiral Hayes' strenuous objections. "This is an honorable battle," Gowron had declared to the Federation Council. "The clans are worthy opponents. The Klingon Empire will not stand aside while history is made. Our warriors will fight alongside yours, and together we will show these invaders what honor truly means." In the end, Hayes had accepted, because refusing would insult a crucial ally, and because though he'd never admit it publicly, the Klingons' enthusiasm for close-quarters combat might prove valuable against elementals who devastated Federation troops. In every previous engagement, the Andorian Imperial Guard contributed a full regiment, 2,000 warriors in powered armor, trained in urban combat and skilled with both traditional weapons and modern firearms. The Andorians had developed respect for clan honor codes during the Siege of Andoria, saw this as an opportunity to face worthy opponents in proper battle rather than orbital bombardment and hit-and-run raids. Even the Vulcans, despite their philosophical objections to violence, provided tactical support, combat analysis, hacking specialists to target clan battle ROMs, strategic planning that would maximize Federation advantages while minimizing casualties. Ambassador Sarek himself volunteered to coordinate intelligence gathering, his logical mind dissecting clan psychology and predicting their likely tactical responses. The Federation was united in a way it hadn't been since the Dominion War. Every species, every world, every citizen understood what was at stake. This wasn't just a battle, this was a statement about who the Federation was, what it stood for, whether it would defend its principles against forces that valued strength over diplomacy, conquest over cooperation. In clan-occupied space, the preparations were equally intense but more fractious. Khan Natasha hand-selected 100 mechs from across all clans, choosing not based on political affiliation, but on pure combat capability. Her own wolf warriors formed the core 30 mechs piloted by blood-named warriors she'd fought beside for decades. Ghost Bear contributed 20, including Khan Bjorn himself in his custom Kodiak. Even Jade Falcon, despite their pride and resentment of Wolf's leadership, sent 15 of their best pilots, because losing this battle would destroy all clans equally. The mechs themselves were works of art and instruments of death. Assault mechs like the Atlas and Dire Wolf, weighing 100 tons each, bristling with PPCs, autocannons, missile launchers, carrying enough firepower to level city blocks. Heavy mechs like the Timber Wolf and Mad Cat, 75 tons of speed and firepower, the backbone of any clan assault. Medium mechs for speed and flanking, and light mechs for reconnaissance and harassment. Each mech was lovingly maintained by dedicated technicians, its armor repaired, weapons calibrated, ammunition loaded. Each pilot performed rituals passed down through generations, checking weapon systems, reviewing tactical doctrine, meditating on the battles to come and the warriors who'd fought before them. The warships prepared as well, 20 vessels, representing 6 different clans, each with its own traditions and tactics, but all united in common cause. They practiced coordinated maneuvers, ran firing drills with live ammunition, calculated optimal engagement ranges and escape vectors. Their armor was already scarred from previous battles, their crews already bloodied, but they remained formidable, each warship equivalent to 5 Federation cruisers in raw combat power. And across all the preparations, a single truth dominated every warrior's thoughts. This was the battle. Not a skirmish, not a raid, not even a major engagement. This was the climactic confrontation that would determine everything. Win. And the clans established themselves as legitimate power in this galaxy, gained territory and respect, proved that Kerensky's children could compete with any civilization. Lose, and they withdrew in defeat, returned home with their honor intact but their invasion a failure, faced political consequences that could fracture clan society. No pressure. Just the future of 2 civilizations riding on one battle. On the 30th day, both fleets arrived at the Breen system simultaneously, having calculated their jump timings with precision that spoke to how seriously both sides took this engagement. The clan warships materialized at the system's edge, their angular forms stark against the starfield. The Federation fleet emerged closer to Breen IV, taking the defensive position, letting the clans come to them, forcing the engagement on terrain they'd already analyzed. On the Enterprise E, Captain Picard stood on the bridge, surrounded by his senior staff, looking at tactical displays showing both fleets in position. Somewhere among those clan ships was Natasha Kerensky, a woman he'd come to respect despite fighting against her, a warrior who valued honor but understood pragmatism, a leader trying to find a path between tradition and survival. "All ships report ready, sir," Riker said quietly. "Weapons charged, shields at maximum, transphasic torpedoes loaded. We're as prepared as we'll ever be. And our ground forces? General Martok reports ready. 10,000 troops dug in at the strategic objectives, anti-mech weapons deployed, Klingon warriors eager for combat, Andorians in position." He says, and I quote, "Let these clan warriors come, we will show them that honor is not the exclusive province of their society." Picard smiled slightly despite the tension. Very diplomatic of him. "Mr. Data? Status of enemy forces?" Data consulted his tactical station. 20 clan warships in standard formation, spreading out to engage our fleet from multiple vectors. Sensors detect 100 battle mechs loading into dropships for planetary assault, plus approximately 500 elementals in powered armor. Analysis suggests they will drop in 3 waves: assault mechs first to establish beachhead, heavy mechs to exploit penetrations, light and medium mechs for flanking and harassment. Standard clan doctrine, Picard observed, which means they're confident in their abilities, not trying anything creative. Good, we've trained against standard clan tactics. "Counselor?" Troy closed her eyes, reaching out with her empathic senses toward the distant clan fleet. Determination, confidence, but also resignation. They know the stakes. They're prepared to die if necessary, but they'd prefer to win. I sense no deception, Captain. They intend to honor the terms of this engagement. "Then so shall we," Picard said firmly. He opened a channel to the clan flagship. "Khan Kerensky. This is Captain Picard. Both our forces are in position. By the terms of the Breen Accords, we are to commence engagement at 1300 hours, local time. Do you confirm readiness?" Natasha's scarred face appeared on the view screen, her expression grave but composed. "Confirmed, Captain Picard. Clan forces ready. I want to say one thing before we begin. Regardless of who wins today, this battle represents something important. 2 civilizations finding a way to resolve conflict that doesn't require total destruction. That matters. That's worth remembering when the shooting starts." "Agreed, Khan. And may the best warriors prevail." Picard out. The channel closed. Picard looked around his bridge at the faces of people he'd served with for years, fought beside through impossible battles, trusted with his life. They were ready. The Federation was ready. And across the void, the clans were equally ready. In 93 minutes, the Battle of Breen would begin, and nothing would ever be the same again. The Treaty of Breen had been signed for barely 3 weeks when the first reports reached Earth of new KF drive signatures at the Federation clan border, not reinforcements for Wolf or Ghost Bear, not merchants or diplomats coming to facilitate the technology exchange. Warships, 15 of them, painted in the colors of clans that had not participated in the original invasion. Admiral Jean-Luc Picard, promoted after the Battle of Breen, and now overseeing the clan liaison office at Starfleet Command, stood in his office reviewing the intelligence reports with growing dread. Clan Steel Viper, Clan Blood Spirit, Clan Ice Hellion, all hardline factions known for their rigid adherence to the most extreme interpretations of clan honor, their contempt for anything they perceived as weakness, their willingness to use any level of violence to achieve their goals. "They're not here to negotiate," he said quietly to Commander Riker, who stood beside him reviewing the same data. "They're here to punish Wolf and Ghost Bear for what they see as betrayal of clan ideals." "Can Natasha stop them?" Riker asked. "She's Ilkhan now. Doesn't that give her authority over all clans?" "In theory, yes. In practice?" Picard shook his head. "The Ilkhan's authority depends on the other clans accepting it. These hardliners rejected the Treaty of Breen before it was even signed. They don't recognize Natasha's position. They see her as Desgra without honor for negotiating with us instead of conquering us." The door chimed, and Natasha Kerensky herself entered, still wearing her clan wolf uniform but now bearing the insignia of Ilkhan, a position she'd accepted with visible reluctance, knowing it made her a target. Her face was grim as she crossed to Picard's desk. "The hardliners have issued their declaration," she said without preamble, pulling up a holographic display. "Trial of annihilation. Against both Wolf and Ghost Bear for contamination by free-birth culture and betrayal of clan honor. And against the Federation for, and I quote, corrupting superior warriors with Desgra philosophies and refusing to accept rightful conquest." "Trial of annihilation," Picard repeated, his voice heavy. "I'm not familiar with that term. It's the worst sentence in clan law," Natasha explained, her voice tight with controlled fury. "Complete extinction. Not just military defeat. Total eradication of the clan's genetic legacy. Destruction of all infrastructure. Execution of all warriors down to the last bondsman. It's rarely invoked because it's so extreme. But when it is..." She paused, meeting Picard's eyes. "There is no mercy. No prisoners. No quarter given. They intend to exterminate Wolf and Ghost Bear completely, and then turn that same genocidal fury on the Federation." Riker leaned forward. "How many ships? How many mechs?" 15 warships confirmed, 5 Steel Viper, 5 Blood Spirit, 5 Ice Hellion. Approximately 1,500 battle mechs across all 3 clans. 6,000 elementals. And they're not coming to negotiate terms or fight limited engagements. They're coming to kill everyone and everything they can reach. Picard stood, moving to the window overlooking San Francisco Bay. The city had been rebuilt after the Dominion War, its citizens believing they'd seen the worst warfare could offer. Now another invasion was coming, and this one would be even more brutal than the last. "We honor the Treaty of Breen," he said firmly, turning back to Natasha. "Wolf and Ghost Bear are our allies now. If these hardliners want to destroy you, they'll have to go through the Federation first. We've fought this war long enough to know how to hurt them. And we've learned a few new tricks in the last few weeks." "Admiral," Natasha said, and there was unexpected emotion in her voice, gratitude, perhaps, or relief that she wasn't facing annihilation alone. "These are not the clans you fought before. Smoke Jaguar was brutal, yes, but even they had some limits. Steel Viper, Blood Spirit, Ice Hellion, they follow what we call dark honor. They interpret every tradition in the harshest possible way. They kill civilians deliberately to break enemy morale. They execute prisoners to avoid wasting resources. They see mercy as weakness and compassion as Desgra, the worst of clan culture, stripped of anything that makes us more than simple murderers. Then we'll show them what happens when murderers face justice," Picard said coldly. "Commander Riker, mobilize the fleet, every ship we can spare. I want defensive positions established at Earth, Vulcan, and Doria, anywhere they might strike. And contact Khan Bjorn. We'll need Ghost Bear's warships and warriors coordinating with our forces." "Already done, Admiral," a new voice said from the doorway. Khan Bjorn Jorgensen entered, ducking slightly to clear the doorframe. Ghost Bear received the same declaration Wolf did. "We're already moving our forces into defensive positions. But there's something you should know. The hardliners are targeting Earth first." "Earth?" Picard felt ice settle in his chest. "Why Earth specifically?" "Symbolism," Bjorn said grimly. "Destroy the Federation capital. Decapitate your government. Prove that your entire civilization is vulnerable. Then systematically conquer every other world while your society is paralyzed by shock and grief. It's actually brilliant strategy, if you're willing to commit mass murder to achieve it. How long do we have? Based on their KF drive, recharge rates, and jump range? 72 hours. 3 days before 1,500 battle mechs drop on Earth's major cities and 6,000 elementals begin hunting down anyone who resists. The next 72 hours were a frenzy of preparation that made the build-up to Breen look leisurely by comparison. Starfleet ships converged on Earth from across the quadrant, creating the largest defensive fleet assembled since the Battle of Wolf 359. Civilian evacuations began in all major cities, transporters running constantly, beaming people to shelters deep underground or to ships in orbit. Planetary defenses that hadn't been active since the Dominion War powered up, their weapon systems calibrated for engaging battlemechs rather than starships. And in a development that stunned everyone, Clan Wolf and Ghost Bear warriors arrived on Earth's surface, taking up defensive positions alongside Starfleet troops. Battlemechs in Wolf and Ghost Bear colors stood guard in Golden Gate Park, outside Starfleet Academy, surrounding the Federation Council chambers. Elementals in powered armor patrolled the streets, their presence both reassuring and unsettling to civilians who'd learned to fear clan warriors. "This is wrong," Star Captain Marcus said to his lancemates as they positioned their mechs in San Francisco's financial district. His Kodiak repaired after Vulcan, its left leg replaced with parts salvaged from destroyed mechs, stood sentinel among buildings that suddenly looked fragile next to its 100-ton bulk. "We should not be fighting other clans. We should not be defending freebirths against our own kind. The hardliners declared trial of annihilation against us." Star Commander Elena replied from her Timberwolf, her voice carrying over the tactical channel. "They want to exterminate Wolf completely. Destroy our gene legacies, kill our Sibcos, erase us from clan history. Would you rather we just accepted that? Let them murder everyone we've ever known? No. But this feels like betrayal. Like we've become what they accuse us of being. Desgra. Without honor. Honor is standing by your word." Khan Natasha's voice cut into the channel, broadcasting from her position at Starfleet Command. "We signed the Treaty of Breen. We gave our word to the Federation. Breaking that word to appease clans that want us dead would be true Desgra. We are Wolf. We keep our promises, even when it costs us everything." Marcus considered that, then nodded inside his cockpit, even though no one could see. "Af, my Khan, we stand with the Federation. For Wolf, for Wolf," the other warriors echoed, and the channel went silent as they settled in to wait for the invasion they knew was coming. The hardliner fleet emerged from KF Jump at the edge of the Sol system exactly 72 hours after their initial appearance, their timing precise enough to suggest extensive planning. 15 warships in perfect formation. Steel Viper ships painted in green and gold, Blood Spirit in crimson, Ice Hellion in blue-white. Around them, dropships prepared to unleash hell on Earth's surface. On the bridge of the USS Enterprise E, Captain Riker Picard, having moved to overall command of the defensive operation, watched the enemy fleet materialize with grim determination. "They're not even trying to be subtle," he said, studying the tactical display. "Standard clan formation, no attempt at deception. They're coming straight at us." "They don't think they need deception," Data observed from his station. "Analysis suggests they believe their forces are sufficient to overcome our defenses through simple, overwhelming force." They may be correct. 15 warships represent significant combat power, and 1,500 battlemechs could theoretically hold Earth's surface even against our orbital superiority. "Then we'll have to prove them wrong," Riker said. "All ships, battle stations, this is not a drill. Enemy forces are in system and approaching. Rules of engagement, unrestricted warfare. These clans have declared trial of annihilation and forfeited any claim to honorable treatment. Defend Earth. No mercy, no quarter." The hardliner fleet advanced, and the Federation fleet moved to intercept. But this time, the dynamics had shifted. Wolf and Ghost Bear warships sailed alongside Starfleet vessels, strange allies born of necessity, traditional enemies now united against a common threat. The combined fleet outnumbered the hardliners nearly 4-1 in hulls, though the hardliners' warships remained formidable. Khan Vandervan Chistu of Steel Viper, commanding the hardliner forces from his flagship Viper's Fang, watched the approaching defensive fleet with contempt, twisting his aristocratic features. "They dare bring Desgra Wolf and Ghost Bear against us?" he said to his bridge crew. "They compound their dishonor with every action. Very well. We will destroy the traitors first, then annihilate the freebirths. All ships, target Wolf and Ghost Bear vessels. Ignore the Federation ships until we've eliminated the real threats." It was a mistake born of pride, and it cost them immediately. While hardliner ships focused fire on their traditional enemies, Starfleet vessels tore into their flanks with transphasic torpedoes that phased through armor and detonated inside hulls. 3 Ice Hellion warships took critical damage in the opening minutes. their crews scrambling to contain internal explosions while still under concentrated fire. But the hardliners were disciplined warriors, and they adapted quickly. They spread their formation, forcing the Federation to divide its fire, and began targeting Federation flagships with the same focused fury they'd directed at Wolf. The USS Titan exploded under concentrated PPC fire, her shields overwhelmed and her hull vaporized in a blast that lit up local space. The Enterprise took heavy damage, her shields failing as autocannon rounds tore through her primary hull. "All hands, abandon ship," Riker ordered as alarms shrieked and fires erupted across multiple decks. "Transporters to maximum. Get everyone off now." The crew beamed to nearby ships as the Enterprise E. Picard's ship, the vessel that had shepherded the Federation through so many crises, listed badly, venting atmosphere, dying in space. It was a death no captain wanted to see, no crew wanted to experience. But there was no time for grief, only survival. Riker materialized on the bridge of the USS Sovereign and immediately took command of the continuing space battle. Around him, the war raged, warships and starships trading fire at point-blank range, explosions lighting up the darkness, debris from destroyed vessels drifting through the combat zone. The space battle lasted 6 brutal hours. When it finally ended, the hardliners had lost 8 warships, more than half their fleet destroyed by concentrated fire and weapons they couldn't effectively counter. But the Federation had paid dearly. 23 ships destroyed, including the Enterprise, the Titan, the Voyager. Wolf and Ghost Bear had lost 2 warships, dozens of warriors, ships they couldn't easily replace. But the surviving hardliner warships retreated to the system's edge, unable to continue engaging the overwhelming defensive forces, which meant the ground invasion could proceed without naval support. The dropships, already committed, descended toward Earth's surface carrying 500 battlemechs and 2,000 elementals. The invasion of Earth began at dawn in San Francisco. 500 battlemechs dropped from orbit in waves, assault mechs first, their 100-ton bulk smashing into reinforced landing zones, followed by heavy and medium mechs that spread out to secure territory. They landed in Golden Gate Park, in the financial district, near Starfleet Academy, at strategic points across the city that would have let them control key infrastructure. But they didn't land unopposed. Clan Wolf and Ghost Bear warriors, 200 mechs in allied colors, engaged the hardliners immediately. It was clan versus clan warfare in its purest form. Warriors of the same culture and traditions killing each other over philosophical disagreements about honor and duty. Steel Viper assault mechs traded fire with Wolf heavy mechs at ranges measured in meters, their PPCs and autocannons tearing through armor that was designed to withstand exactly these weapons. Ice Hellion light mechs tried to flank Ghost Bear positions, only to run into ambushes set by warriors who knew clan tactics better than any Federation officer ever could. And beneath the Giants' battle, at ground level, Federation forces adapted to urban warfare with desperate innovation. They couldn't face battle mechs directly. A 100-ton Atlas could shrug off anything short of a photon torpedo, but they could isolate them, trap them, kill them through tactics rather than firepower. Commander Data, having survived the Enterprise's destruction and beamed down to coordinate ground defense, directed Federation forces with android precision. He identified choke points where mechs would be vulnerable, positioned anti-armor weapons at optimal firing angles, coordinated transporter operations that beamed antimatter charges directly next to cockpits, suicide tactics that killed the Federation troops carrying the charges but also killed the clan warriors piloting the mechs. Klingon warriors, 4,000 strong under General Martok's command, threw themselves at clan elementals in savage close-quarters combat. Battleths against elemental claws, honor versus honor. Warriors who valued death in battle fighting warriors with the same philosophy. The streets ran with blood, Klingon and clan, both as the two warrior cultures discovered mutual respect even as they killed each other. Andorian Imperial Guard regiments challenged elementals to formal duels, one-on-one combat in designated zones where honor codes from both cultures were respected. It was madness in the middle of a war for survival, but it was also strategic. Every elemental tied up in honor duels was one less warrior attacking civilians, one less threat that required antimatter charges and suicide tactics to stop. The ground war raged for 18 hours without pause. Buildings collapsed under mech fire. Entire city blocks burned. Federation forces adapted, learned, found ways to kill machines that should have been unkillable. And slowly, methodically, the invasion began to fail, not because Federation forces were winning, but because the hardliners were bleeding too fast to sustain their assault. By hour 12, 200 battle mechs had been destroyed or mission killed. By hour 15, half the elementals were dead. By hour 18, the surviving hardliners were falling back to fortified positions, surrounded, outnumbered, facing enemies who'd learned how to hurt them. And then the Federation deployed its final weapon. From Starfleet Command, Admiral William Ross, who had commanded Federation forces through the bloodiest campaigns of the Dominion War and learned that survival sometimes required terrible choices, made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Admiral Picard, Ross transmitted on a secure command frequency. I am authorizing use of the Genesis device under Emergency Protocol Omega-7. The hardliners have declared trial of annihilation. They are attempting genocide against our allies and our people. This ends now. Picard's face appeared on Ross's screen, and his expression was one of barely controlled fury. Admiral, I must protest in the strongest possible terms. The Genesis device is a banned weapon for good reason. Using it, even as a demonstration, crosses a line we swore we would never. Your protest is noted and overruled, Ross said coldly. I have authorization from the Federation Council. The weapon will be deployed. You will deliver the ultimatum to the hardliners as the ranking officer on site. That is an order, Admiral Picard. The channel closed. Picard stood alone in his temporary command center in San Francisco, staring at orders that violated everything he believed in. He thought of Hugh, the Borg he'd refused to weaponize. He thought of his own speeches about not becoming the monsters they fought. And he thought of 2 million dead at Geneva, of Earth's cities burning, of the hardliners who would kill billions more if given the chance. He opened a channel to all clan forces, knowing he was about to threaten genocide to prevent genocide, and hating every word he had to speak. This is Admiral Jean-Luc Picard, to all hardliner clan forces. You are surrounded. Your warships are destroyed or retreating. Your ground forces are trapped. You have killed tens of thousands of civilians and warriors in this assault. Admiral Ross of Starfleet Command has authorized the use of a weapon you cannot counter, cannot survive, and cannot honorably respond to. He paused, the words tasting like ash. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally, or the weapon will be deployed against your positions. This is your only warning. Con Vander von Chistu's response dripped with contempt. We do not surrender to freebirths. We do not negotiate with traitors. We fight to the death. That is the clan way. Fire your weapon if you dare we call your bluff, Admiral. Picard closed his eyes. Admiral Ross, the hardliners have refused. I am formally requesting you reconsider this action. Request denied, Ross replied. Weapons free. Fire. In orbit. An unmarked Federation science vessel that officially didn't exist fired a modified Genesis device at an uninhabited moon orbiting Jupiter. The device was a terraforming tool designed to create life, now perverted into a weapon that erased it. Picard watched on his screens as the moon ceased to exist, not destroyed in the conventional sense, but reorganized at the molecular level. Its matter converted through forced evolution before the process destabilized, and the satellite exploded in a brief, terrible second sun. Picard felt something die inside him as he watched. This was the line he'd sworn never to cross, and Admiral Ross had crossed it for him. Con Chistu, Picard transmitted, his voice hollow. That was a demonstration. The next device will be targeted at your position. Genesis technology can reorganize matter at the planetary scale. There is no honor in dying to a weapon that erases you from existence. There is no glory in being converted to molecular dust. You have seen what it can do. Surrender now, or I will be ordered to fire again. The silence on the clan channels was absolute. Then Chistu's voice, stripped of contempt, carrying only horror. You would use such a weapon? That is not war. That is not combat. That is murder beyond comprehension. Yes, Picard said quietly, and there was infinite weariness in his voice. It is. and my superiors have authorized its use to protect Earth and the billions who call it home. I am bound by my oath to Starfleet to follow legal orders, even orders I find morally abhorrent. The question before you is whether you will force them to issue that order again. Choose now, Khan Chistu, because I do not want to be part of what happens next." Before Chistu could respond, another voice cut across the channels, Khan Natasha Kerensky, broadcasting from her position in the ruins. "Hardliners, this is Khan Natasha Kerensky. I have heard enough. You declared trial of annihilation against Wolf and Ghost Bear. You invaded Earth seeking genocide. You have killed thousands in pursuit of ideological purity. And now you face a weapon you cannot defeat through warrior skill or honor. The Federation has demonstrated they possess it, and their commanders are willing to authorize its use. I do not blame them. I would do the same to protect my people." She paused, and when she continued, her voice carried absolute authority. "But there is another option. Trial of possession. You and I, Khan Chistu, single combat. My Timber Wolf against your elemental armor. If you win, I concede. Steel Viper's claim to leadership and Wolf accepts Desgra status. If I win, you accept the Treaty of Breen and withdraw all hardliner forces immediately. One battle between two warriors settles everything. The Federation holds their terrible weapon. Your forces hold position, and we determine the future through honorable combat, as Kerensky intended. You challenge me?" Chistu's voice carried disbelief. "You, who have fought beside freebirths and contaminated your clan with their philosophies. I challenge you," Natasha confirmed. "Right now, in these ruins where we stand, the Federation will not fire their weapon during our combat. Admiral Picard's honor, despite everything, will not allow it. Your warriors will witness. My warriors will witness. And the winner writes the future. Refuse, and you admit Steel Viper fears Wolf. Accept, and prove your courage. Choose." It was a perfect trap, and Chistu knew it, but refusing would destroy Steel Viper's honor more completely than any military defeat. "I accept. 15 minutes to prepare. Then we end this, traitor." Picard watched the preparations begin and felt something almost like gratitude toward Natasha. She'd given him an alternative to being the man who authorized genocide to prevent genocide. He would remember this day for the rest of his life, and he would remember that when faced with the choice between becoming a monster and finding another way, it had been a clan warrior, not Starfleet, who found the path to honor. The battlefield fell silent as word spread. Clan and Federation forces established a perimeter around the designated combat zone, a ruined plaza in San Francisco's financial district, surrounded by shattered buildings and smoking mechs. Khan Natasha's Timber Wolf, scarred from hours of combat, limped into position. Khan Chistu, wearing elemental armor that made him nearly 3 meters tall and strong enough to tear through steel, took position opposite her. No ceremony, no formal rituals, just two warriors who would fight until one could no longer continue. The battle was brutal and short. Chistu's elemental armor gave him incredible strength and speed at close range, his claws capable of tearing through mech armor if he could get close enough. Natasha's 75-ton Timberwolf had firepower and range, her PPCs and lasers devastating at distance. They circled each other, predator and prey reversing constantly. Chistu charged, his elemental armor's jump jets firing, trying to close the distance. Natasha backpedaled, firing, her lasers scoring hits but not penetrating the elemental's thick armor. He landed on her mech's shoulder, claws tearing into armor, ripping out actuators and Miomer bundles. Natasha triggered her emergency ejection, blowing Chistu off her mech and sending him tumbling. She landed badly, her Timberwolf's left arm destroyed, but she still had weapons. Chistu recovered, charged again. This time Natasha didn't retreat. She fired point blank with her remaining PPC, the artificial lightning washing over elemental armor at ranges measured in meters. The armor held. Barely. Chistu's systems screamed warnings, his armor scorched and damaged but intact. He raised his claw for a killing blow, and Natasha triggered her mech's self-destruct. The Timberwolf's fusion reactor went critical deliberately, a controlled overload that turned it into a tactical nuclear weapon. The blast vaporized Chistu instantly, destroyed his elemental armor before he could even comprehend what was happening. The shockwave knocked down buildings, created a crater, killed everything within 100 meters, including Natasha Kerensky. She'd known the reactor was damaged, known her mech was dying. She'd made the calculation that killing Chistu mattered more than her own survival. And she'd made the warrior's choice die with honor, taking the enemy with her, securing victory through sacrifice. The silence that followed was absolute. Then, slowly, communication channels across both clan and Federation forces came alive. Khan Chistu is dead, a Steel Viper officer transmitted, his voice hollow. Ilkhan Kerensky is dead. The trial is complete. Steel Viper accepts defeat. We withdraw. Similar transmissions came from Blood Spirit and Ice Hellion forces. Their Khan was dead. Their champion had lost. By clan honor, they were defeated, and they would honor that defeat even though it killed their pride. The invasion was over. The hardliners withdrew to their surviving ships and departed, leaving behind their dead and their dreams of conquest. The Treaty of Breen stood, ratified in blood and sacrifice. 3 days later, Admiral Picard stood in what remained of Golden Gate Park, looking at a monument that had been erected with impossible speed, a statue of Khan Natasha Kerensky and her Timberwolf, cast in metal salvaged from destroyed battle mechs, both clan and Federation. The inscription was simple: Ilkhan Natasha Kerensky, Clan Wolf, 3006 to 3074. She gave her life so two civilizations could build a future together. Khan Bjorn Jorgensen stood beside him, the massive warrior looking diminished by grief. She was the best of us, he said quietly. The bridge between cultures. The warrior who understood that true honor sometimes means dying for principles rather than glory. She will be remembered, Picard said, by both our peoples, as the woman who ended a war. The Treaty of Breen was formally implemented over the following months. Clans kept 5 worlds as military bases, not occupied territory, but jointly administered zones where clan and Federation cultures could interact, learn from each other, begin the long process of understanding. The remaining 7 worlds were returned to Federation control. The technology exchange began immediately. Federation scientists gained access to battle mech specifications. Ferrofibrous armor that could protect against weapons conventional armor failed against. KF drive theory that promised instantaneous jumps across vast distances. Clan scientists received replicator technology that would end resource scarcity, medical advances that extended lifespans by decades, sensor technology that opened new frontiers. Cultural exchange followed. Starfleet Academy established a battle mech combat program, with clan warriors serving as instructors. Clan Sibkos received Federation teachers who introduced concepts of choice, individuality, freedom. It was slow, often contentious, but it was happening. Khan Bjorn assumed the position of Ilkhan, the only candidate all surviving clans would accept. His first act was to declare the Federation an honorary clan warriors proven through combat, worthy of respect and cooperation. Picard remained admiral, overseeing the clan liaison office that managed the complex relationship between two civilizations that had fought a war and emerged changed by it. The costs were calculated and memorialized. The Federation had lost 89 ships total across the entire war. 45 million civilians dead, most from Smoke Jaguar's atrocity. 12 worlds occupied, then returned, their populations traumatized but alive. The clans had lost 24 warships, 2,000 battle mechs, 8,000 warriors. Entire bloodlines extinguished, genetic legacies erased. Clan society fractured between those who accepted cooperation and those who clung to old ways. But both cultures gained something as well. The Federation gained strength, new technologies, new allies, new understanding of honor and warrior culture. The clans gained flexibility, exposure to different philosophies, technologies that freed them from resource constraints, medical advances that made their warrior lifestyle less brutally short. Sir, we're detecting unusual energy signatures along the Federation Borg border, consistent with Borg vessels, but they're behaving strangely, investigating something, rather than assimilating. Analysis suggests they've detected the dimensional rift itself, and are attempting to reverse engineer the breach mechanics. Picard felt ice settle in his chest. They're trying to learn how to create dimensional rifts? Yes, sir. If the Borg master that technology, they could access parallel universes, infinite sources of biological and technological distinctiveness to assimilate. The clan's arrival may have shown them a door we never knew existed. Picard felt the weight of a new threat. The Borg, the greatest enemy the Federation had ever faced, now pursuing technology that could make them truly unstoppable. He activated his communicator. Admiral Picard, to Khan Bjorn. We need to meet. Immediately. We have a new problem. In orbit, a site that would have been impossible 6 years ago. Clan Wolf Omnimechs being loaded onto Federation carriers, their ferrofibrous armor reinforced with Federation shields, their weapon systems integrated with Federation sensors. Hybrid technology, hybrid tactics, hybrid warriors, Clan and Federation, working together. Because the war was over, but the challenges weren't. The galaxy was vast, full of threats neither culture could face alone. But together, Clan honor and Federation principles, battle mech, firepower and starship mobility, warrior skill and scientific innovation, together they might survive what was coming. The future was uncertain. But for the first time in years, it was a future both cultures would build together.